Councilman Gary Johnson. The other two members of this committee is Malcolm Lavadan and Jules Green. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the other city councilmen as we are sitting in a committee as a whole to discuss the budget. This is a work committee, and there will be no action taken in this meeting. Public comments will be welcome at the next public meeting held on April the 8th, 2025. Item number 1, to discuss the 2025-2026 mayor proposed annual budget. Alexandria City Council meetings and council committee meetings are broadcast live and can be viewed by the public on Ultimate Cable Channel 4. A rebroadcast may be viewed on Ultimate Cable Channel 4 and the City of Alexandria website, www.cityofalexandria.com. Now I'm going to turn it over to the mayor
Thank you.
for his presentation.
Thank you. I will first, the presentation's the right word. The first part of this will be what is our informed opinions on revenue. So I always start out the year, although it can get boring with how we arrive at revenue. You have to set what you think we're going to bring in to do the rest. You can cut expenses, you can do those things, but they largely are what they are, and they largely grow every year, meaning things aren't getting cheaper, things get more expensive. So the real adjustment comes from our revenue estimating. The state of Louisiana has a revenue estimating conference, an RAC that has a whole bunch of different people on that board that does it. We do it that seriously. I look at a lot of data from the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I look at a lot of what would be called GMP data points rather. GMP is the metropolitan product. So you think of GDP for the country, the state has its version, and we have a metropolitan version. There are roughly 300, I'll get to the exact number, but there are probably about 381 metros in the country, to give you some perspective, right? And 7 to 8 in Louisiana, depending on how you count it. So just to start with revenue and how we do things, and I have a special note that I want to give for the president of the council about the concerns that have been related on revenue measures as relates to the capital tax that we've been discussing. And I think that's important to do out front, and we can go over any when we get to the capital budget again. And Mr. Lawverdane as well has been concerned about that and how people understand or don't understand what it funds and how it works. So let me start with some data points that people just don't know, but I think that you should know real quickly. The Alexandria Metro is about $7.5 billion. So our metro obviously is bigger than just the city, but our metro of that area is about that. It has shown somewhere between 0.4 billion and $500 million in annual growth when things are rolling well. The numbers I'm basing that on are 2021 numbers. So you get this data. DJ gets your sales tax data after the fact, right? So sometimes y'all ask how we are, and he has to say, I can't tell you for a few more months yet because you wait on it. Imagine this data is even more of a lag. To get real data, we're in 2025 proper now. You're really looking at 21, 22. So you got to think of all the things that have changed. You had all that COVID money rolling in 21 and 22. So these numbers you have to take for that. I'll get better data next year because I think we'll have rolled out of all of the inflationary money in all the economies, all the metro areas because of federal money in the form of grants. So we were predicted to come back to our peak gross metropolitan product returning in about 2022. I think that is largely held. There have been some issues, but that's not way off. I know people don't feel that in our economy, right? We all talk about that. You see these roaring aspects of it, but the feeling of how much it costs to buy goods and all of those things that are inflationary make it feel much differently than when I tell you that there are parts that have come back to peak positives. Our employment growth is another matter which I'll come to. Our budget message was for this year that we needed to be conservative, that we would be using a more fund balance than I like, but I'll tell you why it's required, and I think you'll understand. So we use conservative expenditure and revenue projections. So by conservative expenditure, that means we think we'll spend more than we plan, right? Conservative expenditure is an up, conservative revenue is a down. The national economy, given its past unpredictability and certain international pressures, I'm not here to give us a lesson on what's happening, but everything from tariff policy to matters in Ukraine, Israel, et cetera, all absolutely affect the national economy, as all of you know. Now let's get a little more local. First, Louisiana. Louisiana's economy is also interesting because it is being revamped. The way we structure revenue and all of that under Governor Landry is being addressed in a new way. This leads me into my special note for Madam President Perry, which is the constitutional amendments proposed by the governor failed, all of them. And that portends some things about how we look at where we are. So I'm going to move into that, and we can come back and cover some of my more specific revenue estimating later. I want to give the special note. I think it's important. The Renaissance tax failed the first time recently, a few years ago. If you remember, the first time it was put on early, it failed. I think there was a different piece to it. Some had argued it wasn't a pure renewal. When the folks recommitted in the last very recent past to a pure renewal with a lot of local, parochial, and statewide officials supporting it, Gary. So all the main players out saying, please be for it, from the sheriff to the senator to everybody, plus pure renewal, it passed. During that same period, that roughly, the Alexandria Capital renewal with no push from anybody, no discussion from the council, just a litmus to see where people are on a pure city renewal. Nothing new, well-established. It will be 40 years old at the end of its life here so far that we've had that in place. Is that right?
Is
it 40?
Initially in 1988.
That renewal failed slightly, and there was a push at the end to cause that, and we all have our opinions on that, but just as a litmus test of throw it up there and see what it does, you see what it did. It failed. In the past, Malcolm, renewals would pass. I know I'm using Mr. and Mrs. Y'all being a little less formal except for President Perry today because we're in committee and we'll be talking through, but most of the time renewals have passed fairly easily, especially if people understand that they were renewals of a basic thing, meaning this one we're talking about is a millage ad valorem renewal of your basic, roughly half the capital tax. For it not to ever be in place again means you redo all your capital is no longer the same as what you have. I'm going to say my thesis now and I'll get to it real quick, but what I'm going to suggest to you is that the appetite for even passing renewals is not what any of you have ever grown up knowing in the recent history. So what do I mean by that? Many people that I read or hear from say, I'm not for any taxes. So I know y'all have heard that. You hear from people, quote, I'm not for any taxes. I'm not even for renewal of an existing tax, end quote. And then usually it's followed quickly by, quote, government needs to live within its means, period, end quote. Everyone should see the stark craziness of that position right away. You all should. I can't say everyone does, and I'm not saying they're crazy because they don't. People don't know. And many of you have come to me, Madam President, and said, we've got to have an educational civics platform to get people to know that again. Yes. So I take it for granted, Malcolm and I are lawyers, we take things for granted that people should know that or it's basic or whatever.
People don't. Yeah.
But they don't know.
I don't know.
So I'm going to say it one more time to highlight it. I'm not for any taxes. I'm not even for renewal of an existing tax, and government should live within its means. Stop right there, underline and underscore and highlight and black out the word means. The means is taxes.
Yes.
So if you're not for any taxes and you're not for renewing any taxes, there is no means for government because government isn't a fee-for-service business. The fee-for-service portion of our style of budget, based largely on sales tax, some ad valorem, in this case for the capital, a big portion, 50% ad valorem, would be the end of everything as you know it from a capital standpoint. All right. So what lessons would I want to start this budget process with you that I'm worried about? And that's my job. I'm required under the charter to give you the report I'm giving you before a budget. It's not something I'm required in the charter to give a financial report from the mayor that discusses all of this. You get a one-page written one that's pretty concise. It's right in the front of your book. Please read it again. I'm giving you the unpack of that just for a minute. Lesson one that I believe is in front of you. Taxes, even renewals, will not pass without community leaders, this is my own notes, without community leaders, especially non-government ones, behind them. Taxes will not pass, even renewals, without community leadership behind them. And by community leadership, I unfortunately do not necessarily include us. But there is a cynical view about everyone in office, no matter what. Someone could vote you right in. You just won fresh off your election, and the very next day, the idea of you being able to say how those taxes should be is immediately joined into the socialized view. I don't mean socialism, I mean the universal view of no taxes at all. And even if we have community leaders who will stand forward, this is even harsher, if they're perceived in any way to have a conflict of interest because of what they do, if they're an engineer or if they're a banker or whatever, that could also be construed by the public on Facebook and social media as, don't listen to them, they have a vested interest. Does it mean they do? Yeah, to the same extent we all have a vested interest. Does it mean it's a conflict or wrong or anything else? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But perception is reality, and that's what you are facing today. Next. People believe they must be persuaded on a legal, almost trial-level basis, Malcolm, not merely given material for them to learn. I read that to Kay an hour ago, and she said, I hate to be, we try to avoid the lawyerly side of it, but Malcolm, you'll appreciate this. It's not a more probably than not. No. It's a clear and convincing standard, or maybe even criminal beyond a reasonable doubt. People want you, when you say we need to do X, Y, and Z, to prove it to them.
That's right.
Beyond all doubt as an absolute statement of fact. I started out with the how government means. You will know that that's equally impossible. I even see more and more people saying you need to vet that more before you do it. And so while that's not a terribly wrong term there, and I don't mean to be preachy, but vetting your vote on the tax is up to you as the individual voter. The vetting side comes from you becoming informed and deciding what you're going to vote for or not. Asking you to vet the tax, well, that's what you do but not for a renewal. Here's the distinction I'm making. If you guys were proposing a new tax to do a new thing with some new call attached to it, some new Spark program, some new that level, I would say you have to start out a different way. But when you propose a renewal of something decades old that funds your current budget, while we're in a different world, and that's what I'm building for us, that we're going to have to treat it differently, that's not the norm of the past. You would not be required to somehow vet that again. You would be presenting that as, here's our checking account, here's the revenue we get every month. We have to get that again, or we have to change the expense side of our budget. The things that would be affected if that renewal is never passed is everything that's capital. That's half the budget. So you'll be changing a whole lot of things. You'll see that reflected here. Without a positive community up message, community up, not leadership down, but community up message that's led by business and civic leaders. Civic, I include in that a wide definition, pastors, lots of different people in civic, community leaders. There's little chance you'll even get a renewal if you put it forward. By the way, there's no renewal forward today. There is no renewal on any call, so there's nothing to push forward. But assuming you had done it a few weeks ago, these are the things that would be required. Now, I know y'all need to know this stuff, so let me just tell you my homework. Lafayette last weekend, this past Saturday in Lafayette, known for what I would call, my opinion, a more congealed electorate than most places. What do I mean by congealed? Together. The folks in Lafayette tend to circle around things and are for or against it in big majorities because it's just, they know their community, what they want, what they don't want, et cetera. That's not a perfect statement, but it's a statement that I think captures Lafayette versus other places in the state. Lafayette, with this congealed electorate status that I would give it, they had a tax renewal of a millage that was 4.47 mills dedicated to road and bridge maintenance. It failed 61%. Lafayette's dedicated millage to roads and bridges failed 61%, pure renewal, no new tax this weekend. Of any stat I'm about to give you, that's the shocker to me. That's not a good sign. The second renewal was a millage that would have been 3.18 mills dedicated to public health services, and that one covered, think about where we are, down south in Lafayette, mosquito control, animal shelters, drainage, fire protection, health units, coroner services, roads and bridges. It failed 52%. Lot to unpack there. So the one that had the bigger list of things did a little better, but the one that was purest, that people will not find sexy, but is most necessary, bridges and roads, abysmally failed. Okay. You can go around the state and you're going to see some things that are not going to make you any feel a lot better. I can give you a plus that I think is an outlier, and that was in November of '24. So this past November in the big cycle, which says something about why the Breck tax, which had been plagued with real concerns about transparency, the Breck tax was up. It was 2 years behind in its regular audits, nothing like we face here. It had recently completed a 2021 audit that showed $70,000 stolen by former employees. So they're facing that, but think about how popular the program is there and the things they built there. And they're facing in a much bigger election, which is the one save that I think is the only save, and it passed. But all of the other stuff we look at shows a lot of problems. So that's a $50 million annual hit had it not passed. That had been the end of that program. Just to give you an idea of how a capital millage can affect you. It is my opinion that because of the years of marketing of Breck and all those kinds of things, it also had a little bit of a cushion to help it. And so that's something for us to think about, Madam President, as we talk forward and we've had these discussions. It is my opinion also that your renewal, if you put one forward, has to be a clean renewal, quote unquote. If you structure a renewal around specific projects or think that individuals can tell you, you only then take the people who aren't the recipient of that project and create a note. This is your basic tax, Chuck. It's not a tax debt. That's a bond or something else you do. This is the tax that you decide this year right now is your capital budget. You get to do that as your 5-year plan each year. That's what the tax does. If you were to dedicate it to something specific and you used an amount of money that did that thing, you could not do anything with the money again except for that thing when it rolled back around. No one does that. That's what we were trying to explain a few weeks ago. That makes no sense. So you might say, well, then why do y'all put any items in there like Sugar House? To give you, frankly, the marketing tool to say, here are some big things that are the type of thing it does. So when someone says, or other matters relate, all that kind of thing, that's not to help the mayor. You decide the other matters, not me. You decide your capital budget every year. So there's somewhat, you have to get back to the idea that people elect you to make this decision. You could not go to each neighborhood and ask them what project they want, or they won't be for the tax. And this is what I'm suggesting to you. If you try that approach, you will never, you're going to do exactly what we started out with. You're going to make it impossible. You can get a 65% note. Okay. Clean renewal. Here's the law of a renewal. The proceeds derived from any renewal or continuation of a tax shall be used solely for the purpose or purposes set forth in the renewal or continuation proposition, what I call a call, the language, approved by the voters of the political subdivision and nothing else. This is critical. All capital taxes only for capital. Operating can move around, but that's a bad practice, because if you're spending your operating capital, that means you're doing something somewhere else not so good. But capital dedicated dollars voted on by the people can only be spent on capital items, correct?
Yes.
It is illegal to appropriate them for any other purpose. Remind all of you, what is capital? Well, y'all know the basic ones, right? Streets and all of those kind of things. The only rolling stock, you hear us say operating capital, that doesn't mean it's capital in your 5-year plan. That can be cars and all that. There is one with wheels, and that's fire trucks, because they're 30 years in theory to last, and because of their price. So they're considered a capital item. Capital items do not go into people's pockets. I see a lot of that in social media too. Oh, don't be for that renewal. That just goes in their pockets, or that goes into people's salaries. Nope and nope. It can't go in anyone's pockets. They're dedicated capital funds, and it certainly doesn't go in the salaries of the employees, because capital dollars can't be spent on salaries, because that's an operations and that's an operational side of the budget. So that's not true. Our size makes us sensitive to management decisions. Our size makes us sensitive to the need, as Ms. Perry has said, to be together on this. Our size cannot, should not let outside or obstinate forces drive our decisions. We need to be driven by public policy. If the people who complain are, so when I say that, someone go, oh, what are you saying, that people who don't pay the property tax shouldn't have a say? I didn't say that at all. I want to be clear. People who pay the property tax know they're paying it. And people who don't have to pay a property tax because, let's say, they rent, can theoretically have it passed through by the owner who's going to pass through the increased property tax. So no one's saying they're not in the game, but they're not affected directly as the property tax person is. But I'm not in that debate. That's something we can get more nuance on if we need to. What isn't in the debate is someone who doesn't pay it all because they're not a taxpayer of Alexandria on property tax. Someone who comes from somewhere else and tells you what you need to do that's just being obstinate or to cause problems. That should not drive your public policy. There's no risk in that statement. Don't renew this. I'm not subject to it, but it'll sure cause y'all a whole heck of a lot of trouble debating if you don't renew it. Saying don't renew a tri-decade-old, now almost 4-decade-old ad valorem just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I can think of some metaphors. I don't want to be harsh about it, but it's not smart. Everything's gone up. Why would you cut your revenue unless there was a reason? And in other words, if you said, no, we're cutting it, we don't need that, we're going to do this some other way, there was a different revenue source, fine. But if you think people are accustomed to the level of capital needs they have, and I know you not only think that, you think we're not getting enough now, even with it, that our needs greatly exceed what our revenue is. Imagine what it'll be without it. I'm coming to an end. Left as it is, the tax likely will fail. So let me just say that. Left as things are today, if we are not together, not only as one team and one voice, but truthfully and truly driving a community up desire for this, meaning the community is telling, you don't even have to go sell it, because they're telling you, make sure, Gary, you get this on and get it done. This is what takes care of our business. If we don't get to the community to that level of thought, and we can't promote it with public dollars, we can't tell people how to vote, but if you don't get there, it's not going to pass. So right now, it's not before us. There's nothing I can really do. There's nothing to expend money on or convince people at neighborhood meetings to do other than educate people on the civics of why you do this, which we are building a platform to do. Cynthia has given me names. You will each give me names of people that you think can be part of focusing on that are representative, and we're going to build that. And we're going to do it quickly.
That's what I was going to ask, what the timeline needs to be at this point.
We have some things built, but we can't budget right now in a 5-year budget, given what I just outlined to you. This isn't a punishment. I don't not just have that it failed to be on a call by the governing authority, which was not good, in my opinion, but done. I also have what the governing authority knows, and probably why it reacted the way it did, which is people saying what they're saying. And thirdly, I now have the data of the past renewal election that's this past weekend that tells me that it's way worse than I thought when I was telling you we need to get going. It's way worse.
Well, Mayor, honestly, I think the resolution not passing is giving us a chance to step back and reevaluate. That was my position initially. I think people now want a new level of engagement, and you have to give that to them.
I don't agree, but I understand your point.
Yeah, people need to be talked to more and want to be informed more. Now, in yesteryears, you didn't have to, but as of 2025, people want a new level of engagement. And if we want this resolution to pass, we got to give it to them.
That's right.
And everything that you're saying is great, but people outside this chamber need to be hearing it. And when I had my town hall meeting, once you kind of explain to people what it's for, many get it. So, I think we're in a perfect opportunity to do the necessary homework, to do the outreach to get it passed. I feel that we will do it. So I think the resolution not passing was a good thing. And what's being said today needs to be said in town hall meetings and get those tough questions from people, and we have to answer those tough questions. So I think we're heading in the right direction here. And it's unfortunate that Lafayette's didn't pass. That's kind of surprising to me. But I think we're in a position to do better, and we will do better. So what's the plan? What's the plan moving forward?
Let me,
Again,
uh,
there's nothing to move forward on now
Well-
because I want to address what you're saying.
Yeah.
This is why I don't agree with you. You're elected on a renewal to put that up and let people decide it. What you're saying is it's a two-step now. I'm just going to tell you what our experience is on that. You're adding the extra step of not just convincing people when the renewal comes up whether to be for it. You're adding the step of convincing people to let you put the right to vote on. That makes no sense to me because in our modern time, you will never convince the people against it are going to fight. Now you're giving two shots at not even letting people vote.
I
And I don't-
see it that way.
I agree. I
don't see
understand
it
you
that
don't.
way.
This is the experience of
Yes.
working with data and convincing people who
I don't see it.
they're not for taxes.
Yeah.
now,
And the council voting to let people decide, that's to me an obligation of the council, not a,
I see it the way, Malcolm saying it. If a tax was on the ballot and failed, because, I had to educate myself on taxes because I'm no tax expert, because I didn't know what I was voting for. So when we go out to these town hall meetings, and I was at Malcolm's, and the question came up, some questions came up, some good questions, no, too many questions, not bad questions. And they was asking questions, and we had to answer for. So did we convince all? No, we did not. But did we convince the majority of people in that town hall that if we're gonna put this back on here, we put it on there to pass?
Yes.
I just think that that's the step that's not been my experience in pushing for these things, that if you're putting it on to pass, you're taking a position that you're convincing people to go from the beginning. And how do you marshal the resources? You don't have a tax on. What resources do we expend now for something that's not even on the ballot? Listen, the people already voted no once,
Right.
So,
whether that was a real vote or not.
so if it would have been on the ballot, do you think that it would have passed?
I think when you put it on the ballot, you authorize us and you tell the world that this is something we have to consider, and then we can expend the energy. Right now, there's nothing to go convince people of. What you're saying is this is an administration limitation. The council members should be having your town halls as the legislators all you want talking about this. That's not it. What we're saying is there's no tax on there for anybody to go champion and go say, look, you've got to do this. But if by town halls you're having a discussion about specific projects that it does, I think you're going to run into this problem of why these can fail if it's not a clean renewal. What people have to get to is every year you get to decide those projects. You're elected to do that. You can't lock yourselves into this dollar can only be used for this. That's not what that renewal is. That is your capital dollars for all projects. All projects that are capital in nature.
Do you think the tax would have failed, or do you think it would have passed?
When was it going to be voted on?
In May.
With no help from us, with no town hall.
Would have
meeting.
gotten help. 'cause we
It would have
had
gotten
that.
help because when you voted on it, then it allows us to go marshal what we need to do. It's not this,
So what happens before?
Where will you
Bill
got,
passed?
where will we get the help
let me ask
from?
this. When would you guys envision the best time to do it is?
Okay, I think there's okay, you're saying from the administration, if we pass it, that's when you're gonna put out the information and champion, because then it's on the call.
I
It's
I
out
can't
there.
expend public resources to champion the tax. That's another thing
But
that we
to
keep.
educate people or get
I-
people, you know what I'm saying?
The city can't expend any money other than information.
That's what I mean.
Uh,
Okay, so if we would have passed it, that would have happened between whatever meeting that was in February,
And May.
between February and May. So now that's in the past, we didn't pass it, so now when do we need to put it back on? And what's our timeline and what's our plan from here until it seems like we
When's the
all
next
are going to
election?
pass the resolution at this point.
Well,
I don't know that.
Moving
I thought that the
forward.
last time.
moving
I
forward.
was
I'm
told
gonna
that the
check
last
the
time.
tax.
That's another
Moving forward,
problem is,
I'm gonna go out and talk about the tax, because tax, when people see tax, that's a bad word. See tax, no. Automatic, no.
you
Because,
gotta call it that, but it's really your basic revenue. It's,
yes,
this is how you run the city.
Revenue stream that.
Did I
So basically, the administration is not gonna spend their energy putting out information about the tax if we're not putting it out on the call, right? I mean, that's what
No.
you're,
I wouldn't, but I don't want it to, it's not us creating obstinacy. Here, do you need to, the administration cannot go out and support, so that would be me. One thing I would tell you is if the council had put it on the call, I would use the informational resources we have to do the information. But if I have the council behind me saying, we want the people to vote on it, I'm willing to that's what I told you guys. I'm willing to individually go say, speaking fiscally conservatively, this is what you have to do and why. But if I don't know that each time the administration, which is one person, technically, one elected, not seven, sticks his or her head out to not have it go forward, that isn't fair either.
right.
You guys are the revenue raisers, not me. In the charter, the mayor does not raise revenue, the council does. And if the council's not convinced that it should even be voted on, that is not a politically smart or otherwise good place for us to be expending public funds to educate, because we don't even know if you're for it. Since that time, I've heard again what I thought we had heard the first time. And that is that everyone gets it, and Malcolm is even saying, I think Mama B's maybe was your big town hall, is that right?
That's right.
That he felt like some people were flipping.
What do you mean? What do you mean flip it?
Flipping, like coming around to maybe this isn't a bad thing, okay, I'm
Yes,
understanding
yes,
better, yeah.
Yes.
It's simply because you're
Not flipping,
educating,
yeah.
because you're educating them.
They accused him of flipping when he wasn't flipping, he's held his same position.
It's because you're educating them, because now they have the opportunity to ask the questions that, that they want to ask. When you think that you know the answer and you really don't know the answer, what the money is going to be used for. So there's a difference in saying, let's just put this tax on the ballot and let them vote for it. Well, I believe that it would have been a no. But once you educate them and let them understand what this tax is going to do, how this tax is used, then they can't do nothing but vote. This tax is going to help you get your streets repaired. This tax is going to help you get your ditches closed. This tax is going to help you get your sidewalks repaired. This tax is going to help you with your brown water. Those are the things that they need to hear that this tax is going to be used for.
Right, but when you go and people who, again, are not paying the ad valorem, are not there to be in good faith, don't necessarily live in the city, or telling that neighborhood group that that's not what's going to happen, and that's not what's historically happened, without a fact in their quiver of errors, I might add, you then spend your time on that age-old, so when did you quit beating your wife, when the real answer is your question's all wrong. I never did. But
Well, I'm gonna
that's the
trust
problem.
That my people in my town hall meetings are smart enough to distinguish.
Yeah.
I'm gonna trust those guys, because I got a pretty good meeting, even though I only have one.
Do you-
huge-
Do you feel like that what Cynthia just outlined is the correct thing about what it does?
Right.
But what I feel like when we're not in this room sometimes is that the council is being led to believe that discussions have to be the administration promising on your behalf specific projects tied to the tax. Because if that's it, you're never, first of all, you won't get our support, because that's bad practice. But second of all, that won't work.
Well, you know what? I believe that my people in my district, I can trust them to believe in me. And so when I ask them to do something, I know that now that when I go out and explain to them and they tell me what they want, then I believe that they believe me enough because I believe in them that they will do. And I get what you're saying. Yes, we do have a few bad apples in the barrel. But now we have to learn. In 4 years, I've learned, and I'm still learning, that we can't go by those bad apples anymore, because I have to trust in those people that are in my district who believes in me, and I believe in them. So we're going to move forward, and we're going to do this together. And we have to let them see that the administration and the 7 of us believe in one another so that we can move forward. I just believe when they see us moving forward together, that we can get this tax passed. We're not against this, and this is something that you don't usually see, and you have not seen this in years, where administration and this team is working together to get a tax passed. How often do you see this?
And on top of that.
We always did it in the past on
And
the
on top of
renewals.
that, you know-
This is the first time I've seen it not happen, not us, where the people were that against renewal. Look, just to We can keep going.
The electorate has changed. It's a younger electorate that we're dealing with.
and different, much more project-specific, this specific. I could say some negatives too about not doing homework and not
Mindset, yes.
digging in, but
So that's who we have to deal with.
that's my ending point. This is what we deal with, what we're dealing with. But I want to say to both of you, this is where I wanted us to be. What y'all are saying, I'm thumbs up in them, because that's what we're saying. No one's asking everybody to commit to this, whatever. I think I know how all you would vote if you were in front of a renewal. You know. But I need and wanted and am hearing that you're knowing within yourselves that I am elected. It's a representative democracy to go tell people, you were sent here to make the decision and not let, I wouldn't have said bad apples. I think the people I'm talking about aren't Alexandria taxpayers at all, other than sales tax when they're in the city. They're here to disrupt you. And we know some of those folks. That's not the same as maybe just someone who's loud at the community meeting who doesn't get it, who needs to be convinced. I draw a distinction. There are some people who are here to disrupt the city
Yeah.
passing this because their interest is in, I guess, keeping us fighting. I don't know.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry. Well, you know what? I'm past that.
Good. Then we're on the same page. And I love the way you said it.
And I see this right here, in my 2.5 years, I never went to nobody's meeting but mine. I go to Malcolm's meeting now. I go to Cynthia's meeting now.
We all go to each other's meetings.
Because we see, I think we're growing together. We're growing, so I went in, Malcolm recognized me, and I took some of his questions for him. So we kind of double, triple team this thing, or whatever you want to call it.
That's great. I mean that.
Moving forward, we put the resolution forward again, we work together to educate the public, and
Well,
then it's in the voters' hands.
well, I think these two have meetings coming up,
Yes.
and I will be present at both their meetings, and, you have some homework and some
Yes.
talking to people that you want to.
Yeah, my meeting actually was supposed to be tonight, but we have this, so I have to reschedule.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to be specific because Malcolm's being specific. I think you need to all have your own round of
Right.
legislatively had district meetings, not where the administration comes in and you say, well, what are y'all?
No.
Hold your meetings as legislators do, as Congress members do.
Yes.
In the meantime, Cynthia's the only one that's done it, only because I've only gotten it from her. I'm going to be reaching out to each of you personally in a call to get, transparently and openly, 5 people that you think would be focus group ready. Like, this represents 5 people, that's a swath of everything in my district that I think is there, and we're going to put together a group to talk about what people need to hear, what they don't believe, and all that. That's second part. That's B. A, conduct some wide open town halls. B is going to be hearing back from the focus group. And then C, we can go have a round of wide open meetings. But at least then you have other community players with you, so it's not just you telling people. You have people going, no, that's not what it means. It's very different when community people are talking too. And that is, as Malcolm said, that's the new world we're in.
So
There
I
was a
think-
time they listened just to you.
And I do.
But that's not now.
I agree with that. I think that when you get that focus group together and you allow the focus group to sit in our seat,
Yes.
and we're not sitting in that seat, and they hear from ordinary people, not political people like ourselves, then they will take it better. They will not believe, okay, they're listening at the mayor or they're listening at this person, and I think they just will
Yes.
take that better.
100%.
So I can agree
That's the
with-
plan, and that's what I had started outlining with Cynthia, had not all the way. Now, listen, some people are going to hear it today, it's going to get around, they're going to go, oh, now we know their plan. See, they're tricking you. You can't win with that. You can't
Well,
worry
we
about
not-
that.
we not
That's,
talking about-
that's
We're not
going,
entertaining
that's
that.
jumping the
No.
shark, as they say.
They gotta go
Can't
after
worry about it.
So what's the about they go vote?
All right, I'll finish with this. That was painful enough. And I would tell you that, Malcolm, we know that, ironically, it's not Democrat and Republican, it's not liberal or conservative. None of that modeling works in this new generation and new way people look at it, even if they're older. Historically, pro-tax for services Democrats and anti-tax conservatives, they've switched roles now, or they're just all against everything. It's just, none of that works. But that's the backdrop for the revenue we're going to present to you today, is we have to consider the chance that without an intervention, this tax will not renew.
Mayor, I know you know Judge Reeves in Caterpillar Parish, right?
First name, I think I do.
Jim Reeves. Jim
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Well, when I'm up there, he loves to give me political advice. And one thing he told me was, you need to talk to people, shake their hand, and ask them for your support.
That's right.
And get them to commit there, or, get an idea of where they stand on the issue. Everyone up here has won election, you've won several, and on that campaign trail, every one of us engaged people, shook their hands, and asked for their support. I think we have to do the same thing for this.
I agree with that, Mark.
Just
100%.
real basic. Use plain language, explain what's it for, and ask them for their support.
Okay.
Real simple. So,
All right?
let's do it.
All right, moving on. Thank you for that. I felt like it was an exercise to get us somewhere. If you felt it was a waste, I apologize, but that's what we've been struggling with. If you will go now, we're going to start on just some revenue stuff, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. David Johnson and Paul. You're up here, Paul, and we're going to take you through whatever you want to go through in whatever order. Do y'all have a preference now? Do y'all know what you'd want to start with, so I can tailor the next thing to
Well,
that?
I prefer to have it like we had last year. If you recall, it was kind of wide open. We went through it and.
We'll do it like that.
Let's do it like that, because we kept
Okay.
wide of it.
All right, so on page 16, if you'll go there first. I appreciate the candor and the time just now on that other part. It may not mean a lot to others, or even some of my folks who've heard it over and over. It meant a lot to me, because it's putting us where we need to be together to figure through this. So thank you all for that level of professionalism. On page 16, right in the bottom right corner, you'll see other interfund transfers. There's a 4.692 million right there. You see that?
Yes.
And underneath it is excess revenue over expenditures of 1.6. If you travel up above that, you'll see I'm talking about capital. I know we're about to start operating, but just want to give you some ideas of the structure of where we're going to end up. That 4.692 represents taking general capital money from your 5-year capital plan and moving it into utility capital. Its equivalent, its hard capital items.
So what does that mean
That means,
in plain language?
in plain language, we had a big exercise of what happens if we lose the renewal. This is going to hurt you worse. I stopped a while ago, but without any rate restructuring, rate reform in the utility, it can no longer support its future capital needs. Things expand, hadn't been adjusted up in electric since 1986. So now you're having to rob the Peter that represents normal capital for utilities. When utilities was historically, Chuck, what stood up above everything and gave money to everyone else. I want you to think about that. In all of the history that I've been here, and that any of you have been here for sure, that's how it worked. So we're out of cash on the capital level of items, not running the utilities, but at some point, to build new lines, to build new structures like the expansion on 28 West, but just to maintain what we have in transformers, everything that we have to do. Substations is what I was looking for,
Substation
thank you. In
rebuilds.
substation rebuilds and all of that provides reliability, that's there. Brown water, any of those issues that are related to the provision of utilities, that is about upkeep of the things through which molecules or electrons move, all of that has to be done. And we don't have that set up if we don't make changes, yes.
Just give them an idea of how many substations we have, how much they cost, and how old ours are.
We have 7 substations.
7 substations, cost per substation if you were to build one or refab one,
About 9 to 10 million.
How many-
9 or 10 million.
How old are they?
And how old what's our average age?
We have some transformers as old as 1972, and we actually have some breakers in the plant that are 1956.
So this stuff gets rebuilt and it's lasted
56.
well beyond its useful life. Yeah, he said 1972.
He said
One-
56.
He said 56.
Some of the breakers in the plant are from 1956.
But guys, that's him getting your attention with the shocker, the outlier. I mean, that's not everything, obviously, but it gives you an idea. You shouldn't even have that in your fleet right now, is the point.
So
not everything lasts that long.
to be clear, man,
Stuff was built,
They've been
Things a year older than I am.
well, they get rebuilt. I mean,
Fire
but
trucks.
Rebuild.
so, Mayor, we are
Yes.
taking these funds, it's 1.6, correct?
no, 4.692
4.6.
and moving that over. And so I took the liberty of, I looked at last year's budget. You don't have that in front of me, but same page 16. Last year, I took 8.4 and did that. It's the first time in my life that I'd ever done that in a budget was last year and again this year. But that one's easier to explain. That was the Wartsilla redo that hadn't been done in 4 years. That was all that deferred maintenance that happened we had to do. That was the Adams Tower tank deal. So there were some big items, I can explain that. Then I went a year even before that and looked at page 16, and it looks nothing like that because that was what we would call more normal or normative, and that was only 692,000. So I looked at the number below that one too, which is the excess revenue over expenditure, and you're going to see that 1.6 is the same as the 1.6 last year. The year before was only 123,000, but that 1.6 in your 5-year column represents an unencumbered amount now, if you will, of available funds. So when you see our capital budget when we get there, we're about to start operating, remember, but when you see that and the things that, Cynthia, we've talked about, our playgrounds and all the specialty stuff we need, that is to cover that plug when we can figure out what to do about a renewal. We cannot plan which is why I wanted you, y'all said earlier, why you didn't think you needed to put it on the call. Well, here's why you needed to, because we cannot plan a 5-year forward budget without that on the call, without any knowledge it's going to happen. Your capital budget is 5 forward. Your operating budget is 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. So that 1.6 is there. Before this cycle is over, before we get to April 8th, Jim, at your last meeting, I will have circulated if we work together and get all of our business done, Malcolm, here's what I think things could look like that's better, and it'll have any projects that we're struggling through. You're going to see, though, I kept my faith in the projects that we cared about. It's just not enough money. Can't project past a year or two. I gave it 2.
Okay, mid-year, can we,
Absolutely, if we're feeling better. Right now,
yeah, read
you may say, well, you still won't have it passed yet. What does it matter? Well, right now, I'm looking at what just happened on Saturday, not on a call and not a plan. What I just heard from us was a plan. A pretty ABC, this is what we're doing together. And now we set it on the record. We felt like last time we were kind of going that way and the rug got pulled out. Y'all felt like we didn't have the support we needed. Now I think we're on the same page. So check that box, it's done. The next big one will be talking about the utility itself. You'll be getting that data not from us, not from you. You're the rate maker, comes from third parties, you can compare it around.
Okay.
It's great to be the cheapest utility in the area, right?
All right.
But if you can't pay your bills, but you got to make some adjustments and you're still competitively better than everyone else, that's a requirement. We're knocking on malfeasance door on that one, guys. Not there yet, but the minute you decide purposely you will never make an adjustment when the state has said, here's where you are percentage-wise, we're going to get in trouble. All right, off that?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, anything?
On page, you go, Madam President.
I just want to know if he said I couldn't get my equipment because we didn't put that on the ballot.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what you see is me protecting your ability to do that and think through those projects by sticking that 1.6 where I did.
Okay.
So every time you see something that you don't like when we get to the capital budget, I'm going to go back and go, we work on our plan. I think we have it covered.
Okay.
So think of it like this. That 1.6 I have tomorrow to look forward to in a year out. But if I never think we're going to get this ad valorem done, and until today, I can only look at it as a budgeter as we're not. We're unlikely to, until what I just heard from y'all. Then the way I look at it is, that 1.6 goes away. That's not generating new in 2 years. That's just gone. It's 40%, Trey? What is that, this one? 48, 46%? What were you saying, which one?
40, what you talking about?
The capital amount for this ad valorem if it doesn't get renewed. How much of the total capital amount is it?
I believe it's 46.
Oh, it's about 47%. It's 5.6 million
You got 3 of them. The recreational is very small.
It's
The other two,
5.6
Sales
new,
tax and property tax.
is.
5.6 new revenue each year. Yeah. Okay.
so cut it more in half.
Basically, yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is proprietary fund types? What does that mean? I was looking for a definition of proprietary. I didn't see it in the
So
glossary.
proprietary funds are our things where we are acting more like a private business. The utility is proprietary. Then there are different types of that, if you think of that as
Thank you.
sort of the overall. The zoo, go ahead.
So we've got 2 different types now. We've got the enterprise funds like the mayor alluded to, that the Hoss is utility, zoo, sanitation, golf course, and bus, transit.
Okay.
They're all enterprise funds. The other type we have are internal services. We have 3 of those. They handle our insurance, where we're self-insured.
So in essence, these are the things that we're operating, hopefully for a profit. That's the goal.
Theoretically, a small profit,
Yeah.
so that they can regenerate their own.
Look, so y'all, because then people go, you shouldn't be operating for a profit, you should operate even. No, that's a breach of fiduciary duty on that type of fund. We don't call it profit, we would take it as retained earnings for future needs, because we're not acting for profit. On page 7 of y'all's budget, Malcolm, if you go to page 7, you'll see what I was getting to and DJ did a better job of. Proprietary is the genus, as I was saying, and then the 2 species are enterprise and internal. So he's got it right there for you.
All right,
Your
right.
proprietary definition is there, and then the two different versions are under it.
All right, I was looking for it in the glossary, I didn't see it.
Enterprise is where we act most like a private sector has to act. And there is case law, Trey, you know the case, I never remembered, but the utility fund, the Supreme Court has said, you run as you are fiduciaries different than your other council role when you sit as the rate maker. You have an obligation to make that work like a business would. Anyway,
The, kind of the overall arching of all this, I'll bore y'all with a little bit of this. The governmental functions that are typically found in general funds, biggest example would be public safety, police and fire. Those will never be profitable enterprises. But you have to do them.
but you have to do them.
That's why you feed those with tax money, so that you never have to make a profit.
Gary, on page 8 at the bottom, lapse of appropriation is your famous, your military head hits you every time. We talk about it every year. Just remind yourself to go to page 8 and read the last paragraph, and you'll remember ours.
We don't use it or lose it, like the military.
And I know we get some people in the audience every time, it's like, well, y'all didn't spend it? Well, where did the money go?
Still in the
It's
bank.
just still in the bank, in the account line item where it is.
Never
Doesn't go
left the
anywhere.
bank, basically.
Okay.
Use it or
Um,
lose it.
Sorry, Mary, didn't mean to interrupt.
You did not at all. Page 11 is some good definitions for the process when you hear us talk about capital versus operating. Page 12 talks about your council review you're in now versus your major budget amendment. And these are in each, but we probably should inform you more, like go back and look at those. It's all very well done and straightforward. Okay, DJ, why don't you take them through the overall revenue
Yes, sir.
summary now, and then you can, Gary, we'll go straight into operation for operation.
Page number, wherever you go.
Page 16, if y'all would. We'll look at general fund revenues, look at utility revenues, then we'll hop into the individual departments, Gary, like we did last year.
Okay.
Y'all take a look up at the top, that first grouping is the revenue summary. We went up about $1 million on sales taxes, moving it a little closer to what it's been historically for the last couple of years.
We don't normally do that. We usually, at the beginning of a budget cycle, Chuck, would budget that down. It's about $1 million total above that
That we usually budget.
we feel would get closer, but I have to say, given what we're seeing on revenue,
He
I
pitched
was
it really hard to make me
iffy
go up.
on it. I'm normally not the guy that ever does it. I made the adjustment, not DJ, on a revenue slight adjustment up to give us a little better picture, because if we had been what we call very conservative, which we've done in years of panic, it would have made the use of fund balance too crazy. So that's something we adjust at major budget. We'll know better where we are. I also felt like it was historically accurate. But I'm not, super happy, not comfortable. I like to do that under every time, to be revenue under. I think it'll come in probably right at it, but that's not necessarily good to us. Maybe to y'all, to us, we want to always be over revenue and under expense. It's the way we're successful.
The only other big major change, y'all, is down there in the other category. The big difference there is the use of fund balance. It is up considerably. We'll get into the particulars, Gary, on that, but most of it is due to operating capital in general fund and also increases in sanitation, big fleet and
Improvement,
replacements.
okay.
Yeah, they're
Garbage trucks,
garbage trucks, grabber trucks,
we need new equipment.
and I think a couple of shuttle trucks too. But basically, it's a good bit. Zoo had pretty good capital increases too, and general fund itself did.
What do you mean capital increases?
I gave him more money over his objection. They always get punished. If you let the zoo continue to decondition, and then all of a sudden in 4 or 5 years, y'all go, oh, we got to take care of the zoo. All this deconditioning is bad for assets. We've got a new zoo director coming on. I felt like the last thing we need to do is tell that new person, hey, we've recruited you. It was so hard to get a zoo director, but you can't imagine how hard. Oh, by the way, we're cutting all your stuff.
Yeah.
And frankly, there are some people, I won't name them, DJ, that cut the zoo a lot. And I felt like here's what I felt like. You just got rated 6th or 7th best community in the South region for retirement. One of the main things that they said about that, there's a bunch it's about the city and the rural area, but about us. The number one was the zoo. And so we're going to have to make a decision. If that's going to really be an asset, we got to make it, it's due for a revamp. It has to be up so new generations of kids, Malcolm, see something new and we draw some other people.
Now, FOTAS, what are they doing to raise revenue, generate revenue?
They do a lot. I don't know if it's fair to ask for more, although, we're going to have to. It's not necessarily just financial, but they do a lot. They operate the gift shop. They've always operated all the other amenities out there, like the cafe, et cetera. We're not really running those at the level we were. They provide a bunch of labor, a bunch of staff labor. It would be unfair to say they need to do more without us figuring some things out. What I felt like was one-time capital was not an unfair thing to give them that they need, that is better infrastructure that costs less to operate and maintain. When we did Spark years ago, the big thing we did was, okay, y'all want new exhibits? They have to get rid of an old space, put it within that space. You can't keep growing size. You got to do it within it. It has to be efficient on water use and all of that. And when, God bless him and God rest his soul, when Les got that, he was like, I get it. And he rolled out the best projects we had in decades. We're at that point again. We need to, that one, we took out all those old animal cages, all the primate old rounds, redid all that area. We need to figure out a new one of those. And they have them, and they're working on, they have their master plan. Their master plan will always be more than what we think we can do.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, we need to figure out what that is, agree on it ourselves and go. So they got an extra set of capital from me this year for that reason. That was that's it.
Because if we
You
don't
know as
do it
much as
this
I know.
year, and we wait 2 or 3 more years.
It'll cost twice as much to do the same thing.
Or 3 times as much.
Okay.
So I had 2 years since I've been back of police focus. This year moved into some other ones, kept that up, but definitely we got to move some things around. The zoo got a little benefit this year. That's my thinking on it.
Kicking and screaming, I increased the operating capital.
Really?
Now, overall, how was the zoo performing? Overall, overall, how was the zoo performing?
As far as I know, since COVID, it's been a gradual increase
Okay.
in gate receipts, meaning additional usage.
It's performing as we have all, as a community, not y'all, not me, as we have all as a community set it up to, it's performing within that. It is time that we all share a new vision of its future in the Masonic corridor and what we need to do there that we've talked about for years at Bringhurst as well, to make a new thing happen there if we want and if we expect a different result, we're gonna have to do something drastically different.
So is that in the works?
Yes, especially after the talk we just had, yes.
You say we, who's we?
We.
us.
In this room,
You and me, and Cynthia and Gary.
decision
Nothing
makers.
better
Yeah,
than understand.
decision makers, us.
Okay, okay. 'Cause I mean, for the record, I love the zoo, so, you know,
Me too.
I love City Park, so yeah. Yeah, all right.
Okay. DJ?
All right. If y'all are ready, let's go into the individual departments and the specifics of
Yeah.
the revenue. We'll hit general fund first because it's a good place to start,
Okay,
towards the front of the book.
What page?
18?
18.
As soon as I find it, Malcolm.
Right away.
46.
Oh,
Thank you, Paul, 46.
Oh, you
Oh,
going
46?
Okay.
46.
I don't know if I got that many pages.
Give y'all a second to get there. And you'll see mostly what we outlined a little earlier, the $1 million increase in the 3 city sales taxes. We left parish alone just as a buffer in case it turns on us. and the increase in the last line on page 47, the use of prior year revenues, fund balance, you can see it's up significantly.
Okay. What number are you at? What number?
Page 47, the last.
Page 47, the
Okay.
last line.
Use-
399.
use of prior year fund
Okay.
balance, 17 million.
17,359.
Yes, sir.
All righty.
Like in 2024, we budgeted 11, we used 16.
No, sir, that's the final
Budgeted
budget for
11.
2025.
Okay,
And
Amended budget
the 16.
to 16.
Yeah, so, but we budgeted
But we're
11.
starting at 17 this year.
I know, but last year we started
We
11.
started at
11, and
11.
ended up doing, using 16. Budgeted 16.
budgeting.
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 Why? The $5 million increase, what happened?
That capital we were just talking about.
Oh, with the new truck, fire dump trucks?
Well, things needed in utilities,
Okay.
Not utility.
interfund transfers.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we start running through the departments.
I don't get
Show
ahead of
y'all the increases in
All right.
capital.
All right. Was that expected, or was it anticipated, or was that normal with that $5 million increase?
That would be, like the mayor outlined, increasing it due to the fact that we've neglected it.
Okay.
We needed to jack up that, like with the garbage trucks.
Yeah.
The ones we got are getting old. The maintenance on them's getting us.
I get it. I get it.
Mark, so sometimes for me, I have a different role when I'm sitting in that room. If I know from hearing from all the outsiders and some of y'all and different things, this is a need, it's not that they're wrong, but their role is just more uniform, Gary, if you will. Like, everybody needs to suffer the same way every year, right? That's the natural state of finance, is everyone's kind of got to be suffering the same. My role is not that. It is to come in and go, yeah, they got a lot. If you defer this again this year, it's twice as hard. And so there are adjustments that we make by getting data from each division head. His job is just cutting everything.
I guess I get it. I just want to be able to understand the process. So
100%.
when I speak to people, I can give them an informed decision, informed answer. So, all right.
No problem. That's what we're doing.
All right.
Okay, if y'all are ready, we'll start into the expenses on general fund on page 49. And the case with the council's budget, and most others that are outside of capital, they're pretty close to standalone, same as prior year. We'll go over the differences when we run into them.
So no raises for us, just so people know that. There are no raises for the council members.
Well, that's
I look
all,
terrible
so
in ours.
we don't have any say. Only the council can decide that.
We're good where we are. We're
We
good where
gotta
we
vote
are.
on it if we do.
Matt will speak for himself on that.
We're good where we are. We're good.
Although that is one the council would want me to do, stick.
Yeah, stick your nose, yeah.
No, we're good. We're good where we are.
Mayor, I can't believe you did this. We're going to go ahead and vote on it.
Thank you, by the way.
No, we're good where we are. Okay. All
And
right.
then, as is the case with the other budgets, the next page, page 50, gives you the individual line items. They're total on the first page. Look at the blow-by-blow on the second.
Yep.
And I'm gonna buzz through this pretty quick. If y'all have any questions, please holler. All right. Next up is the city clerk. Details on page 53, the totals are on 52. And then on page 55 and 56 is the mayor's office.
Now, Mayor,
Yes,
is this budget, proposed budget available for people to see online? It is online?
No, sir, not at this
I don't think the proposal is until,
Okay.
Finalized.
The proposed, we don't put online, we put online the final.
Okay. Is there a reason why we don't put the proposed budget online?
Just never have.
All right. Continue, Mr. Johnson.
Yes. Next up is general government and other departments and executive branches on page 58 and 59.
The general government, that covers who?
General government would be most, not all, most full-time, unclassified,
Okay.
non-defined benefit,
Well, that's
Mayoral assistance.
intergovernmental.
and that's going to be an intergovernmental too. So in,
Commissioners.
in this one, it had the commissioner, my administrative assistant, and there's one clerical specialist.
Okay.
Bulk of the rest of them, Gary, will be in,
Intergovernmental.
It's gone, just showing it for historical purposes. On 64 and 65 is intergovernmental, that's the rest of it.
So on page 65, you'll see those positions. So David Gill, as chief of staff, is under, he's the Public Works Division head, so he's paid as that. So the Act, whatever, 390, or what is it?
It's 3.
390, chief of staff that I'm entitled to by statute is where Case is positioned. So Kay's in that one. David is in his Public Works position, so there's not two,
Right.
even though it's called chief of staff.
I see you
Then
got a veteran services, we have that yet?
I never filled it. I had someone in mind whom y'all know well. Ended up appointing him to a board, but it was something Gary and I talked about a lot. I always felt like we needed a real professional, former military, of sufficient rank person to liaise way better what we're losing to Lake Charles with our Leesville folks at Fort Johnson. So there's always been sort of they go to Lake Charles, they go here to have their city stuff, and we were always the winner of that. And I hear more and more anecdotal evidence that it's more evened out, or even Lake Charles with all of the growth there. There's things that happen. I just always felt like there'd be a person whose charge would be that, and even more than that, all of our different assets we have here at the Hotel Bentley and elsewhere, all the things we were part of, Gary, and even up to running a better deal at the airport where when military get off the planes, there's a bunch more liaison for that. I have not given up that. It just, as you prioritize things, I've had a little more trouble with that idea of fleshing out the policy behind it. I also think, even though I have a sizable salary budgeted for it, that I could get a grant for that from multiple parties and really offset that. So it's still in there. It is not filled, but I'm wide open about it. Remain wide open.
I think that's, I feel, a very important service. I mean, just the camp, the National Guard camp, I mean,
There's a lot that person can do, even with you guys, holding events on the weekends, going out and representing and it's just, that's a very involved group to go to. Think of all the conventions we have for all the different military, retiree, and other clubs and programs they belong to. Come to hotels, they fill up the rooms, and they have their events, and that would be a role there. I always thought it should be Gary, but he can't get off the council and take it unless he got to choose one or the other, but he'd be perfect.
You don't know who might be getting.
He may look at that salary. and
look
think,
at that salary, he said, Mamma mia.
You don't know.
I didn't even look at the salary. It's just that, one time, when I first got on, the mayor and I met with, General, I forget his name, he was he was a brilliant guy, and, he was all about the soldiers. We had a great meeting with them. If you don't know, they usually stay out there a year and a half to 2 years. I'm pretty sure he's gone now, so you gotta deal with the next general, that comes up. But it's always a great idea because soldiers contribute so much to this community. I go to walk-ons all the time. You have soldiers that work, They come in, a lot of time they stay at the hotel, and they come in, TDY a lot of time, and they come to Alexandria because this is their first stop. They fly into Alexandria.
That's the thing
That's
right
right.
there, that's
Yeah.
big right there, the airport.
But the soldiers that's already at Fort Johnson, on weekend, they mostly going to Lake Charles, which is a little bit farther away. I guess Lake Charles have a little bit more to offer. But it's a great idea, and I'm pretty sure we probably do
Yeah,
in the future.
I'd envision even a small office out in England that we'd rent
Yeah.
from them. They're always looking for, that we'd have the person there sometimes. But more importantly, doing things out at Fort Johnson to get people here, organizing different events that bring people in, bring wives to town and do all of that. This would be a real policy-making person that could do it. Anyway, that was
I
the
don't want to
thought.
get too far off the budget, but I'm looking forward to this year, maybe getting a tour of the box, going out and see the box and see what those soldiers go through. It's almost like Hollywood.
Man, there's one this
Close it.
week. I wish I'd have known that. I could have put you in. There's one.
I lost track of them, but I'm gonna get, probably me and Malcolm, or me and Cynthia, or me and, but just two of us at a time to go out there and see the real training. I mean, it'll blow your mind for these kids. Another thing that I wanna do is probably, work with, the, post commander, try to get those guys to adopt a school, because if I can get some of these teenagers to go see what their counterparts, these 18, 19-year-olds doing, and they see it. These guys,
Get
and
them off the street.
it'll help with crime, it'll help with a lot of stuff, because you'll see somebody that 2 or 3 years older than you, but they're doing daily. And that's what I campaign on, and I'm gonna fulfill that campaign promise to start us engaging Fort Johnson more than we have in the past. Anyway.
Y'all, on page 67 and 68 of city report. Page 70 and 71 is the other part of judicial city marshal.
So we determine the city court's judge's salary? We don't do that.
No, we're a contributor
Okay,
We contribute a portion of it.
okay.
in the parish too.
All right. And how much do we contribute?
Whatever it costs.
Basically, that's
50, it looks like 57.
I'm trying to understand,
Which is-
I'm seeing the numbers and,
They come from three different sources, which is one thing.
okay?
The city judge in Alexandria, by statute, legislative statute, makes $1,000 less
Than a district judge.
judge.
Okay.
good for my JDs.
We pay a portion, the police jury pays a portion, the Supreme Court pays a portion.
Okay.
So it's a pro rata contribution.
All right, so at the end of the day, how much do we give to city court?
What you
So
see-
go to page 68. And that's your detail. You'll see the contributions we make in each of those ones, starting with 480, 111 down.
Salaries, fringes, and some operating contractual.
All right,
About $830,000.
okay. All right. That's the question. And that includes, no, and that's separate from city marshal, or this is just?
Marshall starts,
All right, just making sure.
In fact, that was up next.
All right.
70 and 71.
708 from one.
Now, does the city marshal know of this proposed budget? Does the city, do they know this already?
yeah, so we're so close working with them, they just make their request all
Okay.
during the year. So for example, I think last week we sent Rome and them two vehicles that we had surplus, and we treat the marshal's office like an extent, it's part of the, I mean, the statute is, we have an obligation to fund certain operations under what's called a reasonableness standard. No one's ever defined it, you know, when you see it, I guess. There could be battles, there have been in years past in cities around the state. We have not had that, knock on wood. They let us know, and we usually
Give them what they
always
ask
never
for.
work it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
They do things in return for us.
We don't give them everything they ask for.
Well, I understand, within reason.
Okay.
On page 72 and 73 is finance admin. I'll call y'all's attention to a couple of things there. On page 73, if you look, beginning with the line item 646402, transfer to sanitation.
64602.
You'll see that that one's up from last fiscal's adopted, and that reflects that operating capital we were talking about. Same with zoo. I think golf course is about the same. It's up a little bit. Also, it's employee benefits. That's where the city's absorbing the increase in the healthcare cost. That's a big chunk of why the use of fund balance is up, is because of these.
There was an increase to the health care for employees that we didn't, normally that's a pass on, that we
We can pass
absorbed
on.
it all.
So it's, basically, it's like a raise, really.
Well, it was in lieu of some of that, which we want to talk about at some point.
Yeah.
There had been a series of raises, and we're working through some pay plan stuff still, which is always a process, but,
Anticipated health insurance cost is being completely absorbed by the city side, not the employees.
So in essence.
So the employee's gonna be in the same situation as the employee was last year, as far as what his contribution is.
So in essence, what you're telling me is health insurance costs have gone up.
Yeah.
Instead of passing it along to the employee, the city is absorbing those.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They've gone up quite a bit.
it was a good bit, yeah.
Okay.
So when you say line item 646033, the small business incubator, I have a question about that. And also, land lease. Can you explain those two items to me?
Small business incubator is the same line item, and it covers, there are expenses obviously over there.
The biggest one is its utility usage
Okay,
to maintain the building.
And there's
Okay.
huge capital ones that are, like the chillers and all that have failed in those items. But we have and are marketing it for sale, Cynthia, to put it back into private commerce. And we're continuing to work on that. Every once in a while, we'll get a nip at something that would be a straight deal with us that we would consider, and we try to work those to ground, and we are at all times interested in that if there's something
Now,
that way.
now, Mayor, I have a question, Mayor. Recently, there was a, there was a gathering at the Bolton Avenue Community Center with the home improvement program. And where does that money come in all of this? Like to cover that?
That's federal money.
It's home fund.
Home funds? That's going to be in community development, which we'll get to.
Okay, all right, just making sure, okay.
That one typically, Malcolm, we amended in major budget amendment because the federal fiscal doesn't match ours. So whatever they grant us, we just throw it in major budget amendment next year.
All right.
We won't know.
To this
That's the
fall.
same with home funds and the regular HUD funds, community, housing and community development.
And all, okay, well, I got some questions when we get to that.
Oh, Cynthia,
Land
you asked
lease.
about
Land lease, the land
Yeah.
lease.
The biggest one I can think of is the portion of the Johnny Downs footprint that we leased from the Renaissance Home. It's actually owned by the state. Renaissance has control of it, so we pay them 15 grand a year, I think, to use it.
What we use it for?
Soccer teams.
Part
Soccer
of the
field?
Yeah, soccer fields out there by Johnny Downs.
Yeah, I didn't know which part was there.
We tried buying that property?
73?
The part closest to that.
We
Yeah.
tried buying that
Don't
property?
think you can buy it. The
It's
state,
owned by the
state
State
won't.
Department of Hospitals.
Right.
It's
That's
leased.
old.
This was
We're-
before you
we're
and I were ever
essentially-
involved in politics, this deal was made. I've never,
Oh, yes, that's an old deal.
I know it's an
Chuck
old
was the only one who's responsible for this.
Well,
But-
it used to be rented to our
It was che- yeah.
farmer, Mr. Lorday, and the farmer paid rent.
Okay,
And basically what we're doing is we're paying rent to replace the rent that the farmer paid to the residents.
When he used to.
For that small one, but we're not having to pay for, do we pay, Elena, for the whole thing proper?
Pretty much, yes.
So all of those improvements out there are in conjunction with the state.
so we don't.
As long as we have recreation out there.
As long as we keep recreation assets on it, it will remain ours, but you know the civil code default if you ever separate.
Yeah, it goes there.
Now, the state ain't interested in trying to run a ballpark, so they're probably safe, but,
Yeah, they don't want that.
the heartburn I would have for putting assets on something not fully owned by the city is so old now that it it is what it is. There's nothing we can do. It's before our time, and it is what it is. You just,
I mean, it's my appreciation it was a long lease that was entered into, like a 99-year lease.
I'm sure the original version is, but I think that the documentation now is it renews in perpetuity. I think there's some restrictions on that. You have to probably have a certain amount of time in the civil code, I think, made a new limitation, but as long as we operate recreational assets for the public good, there's no issue. And again, the state would have no interest in taking recreation assets. It would hurt them politically. They couldn't do that.
We don't own the property. Okay, yeah, all right.
Chuck says it was cheaper to do it that way back then. I'm gonna guess that when the tax was passed, it was cheaper to build on it and not have to pay a price for the land. And
I know what happened, I'll explain it all to y'all later.
I may be fuzzy on that.
that doesn't sound good, but it doesn't bother, I don't have any heartburn about it.
Here's what it,
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all
Yes.
good with that?
Yes.
All right. Page 75 and 76 is the Director of Finance. Y'all can pass over that.
And when's the last time the city has given raises to employees?
Last year.
Last year,
Last year.
and the year before, and the year.
And then for that,
So we sucked up that percentage because it was a real amount. They'll be wanting to hear from us. Internally, our plan was to talk to you guys as we approach major budget and look at where things are. There's a lot of,
everything.
that's classified employees I'm talking about.
Okay,
Unclassified aren't under any of that. I arrange their salaries when they come on board, and those adjustments are made in conjunction with you when and if they would like it to be. In other words, the unclassified don't get, if we do it across the board for classifieds, they don't get that.
yeah, same way as our employees.
classified or the civil service was correct. All right.
I told myself last night I was going to quit saying that distinction because people hear it and probably think classified like it's a security level and not, by classified, we mean civil service. Just so the record's clear, we have made a few exceptions. If I've had an unclassified charter secretary, meaning it's one of the clerical officers provided for each division head by the charter to be unclassified, and that person has been here 20 years, then we treat them, I have included those because it doesn't make sense not to. If someone negotiated to come on with the new administration, then the theory is they've negotiated at the time, and those adjustments come when they come, after they convince the leadership of doing it. None of them like that, understood, but I can't include the classified and unclassified. There's two different things. That's a me thing. They would like every raise the same percent to them, but you're negotiating with your unclassifieds differently. They're coming on and serving at the pleasure of the mayor approved by you when they first instance, and that is decided then. So the theory is you're paying them at a professional level when they come on.
Isn't there the retirement bonus, the retirement aspect is a bit different from the classified employees?
Way different.
Way different. They don't have any,
There's
but
no defined benefit.
it's no defined benefit.
Defined
like
benefit
classified.
versus defined contribution.
I still think I'm the only mayor in the state that's not allowed to be in a defined benefit plan. I'll check it, but I'm pretty sure,
All right, just learning,
Okay.
just learning.
All right,
which is wrong.
Right, y'all, next up is the business office on page 78 and 79.
okay.
And then page 81 and 82 is the accounting department. Then 84 and 85 is purchasing.
For the benefit of the public who may be watching and thinking, well, why aren't y'all asking on each? For the benefit of the public, if the council is looking at the page and they see that the actual expenditures in the 2020, 2021, and the 21-22 versus then the next two fiscal years are roughly the same, there's no reason for the council to question it because the budget is remaining uniform. So for those at home to understand, it's not the council lacking doing a job, it's they can see the page, there's no change represented.
No significant change.
Well, I know it's 82,
Page 82?
on page 82, there's a $50,000 increase
Where are you?
for
Count.
total salaries. There's a,
It's probably adding, where are you? What
on,
line?
under 490339, salary,
Under account, we went
Yeah.
from 136 to 180.
That brings up a good point.
yeah.
That was what we had to go up on. We were basically, and this has hit us, Lisa can attest to this over and over again, particularly in our
Lisa-
educated or highly skilled positions.
The one you told me about that you had to go up to adjust to,
Yes, sir.
we had to adjust to get somebody, and that meant you have to adjust to,
Your existing,
Okay.
so.
What the
So
is
the other
account?
thing-
so I don't want to name names, but y'all know are one of the top accountants over there, the senior person. And if we have to increase to get a new person in because we can't attract a new person, then that creates compression with, that person is now starting out so different than the people who've been in the system, there can be a required,
You have to adjust everyone in that class.
That's three people being sharing that one line.
so it's not somebody just got a big chunk in the classified service. It's a mandatory thing that she has to do in classified service.
The other thing that'll happen sometimes, it appears similar to that, is you hire somebody and they come to work in the middle of the year, and then the next year, we have to adjust it for their salary, their full salary.
You can also get it the other way, Malcolm, when you say goodbye to a 30-year employee and bring on a brand new one,
Pay them less.
considerably less sometimes.
All right. So in essence, the changes that we're seeing is usually
Routine.
routine. Okay. All right. Well, to keep us competitive too, I'd imagine, right?
Yes.
Well, semi-competitive.
We weren't going to get somebody.
Let's just say
degree accountant. Paul actually, when he came, I kept challenging him, you got to go find some young accountants. We need to be churning that. We have a whole group that's coming off. And so he helped, and then he and Lisa from, our Lisa in HR got that going, but then it created that, I call it compression. There's probably a different name for that version, but anything where you're bringing someone that starts anew and it makes someone who's been there look down and go, well, wait,
Yeah.
they got
I get it.
this.
Yeah.
We have to make an adjustment.
And how is that adjustment made? Like, who determines the adjustment?
So civil service rules, it's not a me thing.
Okay.
So my unclassifieds are in my discretion. Civil service is not, you adopt the plan and we do, and it's enforced through HR. It's in the pay plan.
Okay, I just want to understand the process, that's all.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's good for people to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to go to the commission, ask for the increase, then that may impact more than whoever's in the position, maybe 3 or 4 people, so they may all 3 be eligible for an increase.
Okay. Are we close to dealing with sanitation? I got some questions about that.
Sanitation's a waste.
It's way
Okay,
in the
all right.
We can, but
No, no,
you
no,
have,
no,
so we can get to
You
it.
got it.
Jump to it.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Print shop is on 87 and 88. Gonna pick up the pace a little bit unless y'all,
Yes, I mean, this is salary, so we, okay.
on page 90 and 91 is the central warehouse.
No, you are.
No big change.
93 and 94 is the parts warehouse.
Parts warehouse?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They supply parts to the motor pool.
The AutoZone.
Now, do we
Just
keep
have
a lot of parts on standby, or do we buy as needed?
Mixed.
Mixed,
Depends. The stuff that is very common, like tires and batteries, we keep.
okay?
The stuff that's specific to an individual model and stuff, no point in keeping it, because you can run by Riley's and pick it up.
Okay.
You don't have to inventory it yourself.
You just have 2 people working in that department?
Yes, ma'am. All right.
Okay.
Next up on 96 and 97, Public Works Director. And on 99 and 100 is code enforcement.
Now, I have a question. On page 96,
Yes, sir.
for Public Division Director, the budget adopted this past year was roughly 357,000, but we ended up spending 400,000 on, I guess, page 96, the first item, salaries and wages.
That was in 2023.
No,
Twenty-
so
24, 25.
2021 is an actual, 21, 22 is an actual, then 22, 23, you get a adopted and final,
Okay.
same for
But the
24.
final budget was 400,000.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at my,
There's overtime.
Yes, sir.
Overtime?
Picking up overtime.
Okay,
That's your big change. That was amended in major budget amendment,
okay.
44,000 for overtime.
and we'll do it again next year. Look at it, how they're doing, and adjust accordingly if we need to.
And what people work in Public Works? What people are in Public Works? again?
Grass cutters.
Division director, 2 assistant directors. Well, you can see the roster over on page 96.
I mean, but I guess my question is, what do they do?
who's that?
Public Works?
Public Works.
The division?
Everything.
Well, I mean, I'm
The
just,
director.
no,
What does the director do?
What they do.
like, what do they do?
Mr. Gill?
The grass.
Public Works is
Are you asking like, what did they do to get $44,000?
No, like, what are their job duties? Like, I'm learning, like, I want to,
That's a perfectly valid question.
Take care of the
So
power.
public
Exactly
works,
what they do.
Police and fire are big eaters, and public works is the big eater. So
we need those guys, okay.
everything that has wheels that's not in police and fire that's going around doing things is generally, other than a few things in utilities, is going to be public works.
Okay.
Public works includes
Streets. Code
drainage,
enforcement.
code enforcement,
Yeah.
Trash,
sanitation.
Public buildings.
sanitation.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to learn, y'all. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to absorb as much as I can.
It is, it's a big one.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. That's my
At
question.
one time in the charter, there weren't some other divisions. The charter we created later, like planning and other, everything used to be in public works. Was kind of, in the commission form, Chuck, it was utilities, public works, and
Parks and Recreation.
Yep, you got three commissioners. Or finance, yeah.
Finance, utilities was combined.
You keep asking your questions.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Then on 99 and 100 is code enforcement.
And it appears that the increases you're telling me are due to overtime generally?
In many cases, yes, with the exceptions like we saw in accounting of the reclassifications.
Or when, I guess when you hire someone on and that could
That-
result in a jump?
That can, yes.
Okay,
And overtimes, that is often a function of being short people.
okay,
So you're having to pay your existing employees overtime to get your stuff done.
I
That
understand.
can affect you in overtime, it can affect you in contract labor.
And it could be a result of the weather, storms and everything.
Oh, yeah,
You got to plan for all that stuff going over time, so it's several things that.
Kept looking over.
So are you telling me that Public Works is understaffed?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
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 By how many people?
And across the various departments, all of them, all
Yeah,
departments.
we are.
Bus drivers, sanitation workers, I mean, it's just, the
Grass
workforce
cutters.
is not what it was when I was here 6 years ago.
It's not.
It's just not. They're not available.
Post-COVID changed everything.
People want to work from home, they don't want to work.
If they want to work at all.
And then when you hire the contractors, they don't work either.
Right.
Charge you double.
It's sad, y'all. It's
we lived
really
that
scary.
It is.
I don't know what we're gonna do about this next generation, because I could see the turnover with my sanitation workers in front of my house, you know. When I first got here, I could see the same person for a few years. Now, if I'm out there, it's a different group of guys.
Changes every week.
Yeah, because, and this problem is everywhere, not just Alexandria.
No, that's correct.
So, yeah,
What I heard is
it's bad.
pretty well happening there.
I mean, you see us advertising on social media and everywhere looking for employees.
I encourage people to apply, so I understand.
Yeah.
I get asked every week, you have jobs? I'm like, I sure do.
Yeah.
A ton.
Laptop.
Yeah.
I want when I get paid and not do anything.
Well, if people are asking y'all or me, that's generally what they want to know is you have it right then and can tell them the salary and go report to work, not go through civil service.
Get a check on the way to work.
Good check on the way to work.
You just clean it up.
Y'all take a look already at code enforcement on 99 and 100?
We can, I mean,
We did.
we could,
What happened?
No questions on that, we'll move into engineering.
engineering.
Engineering is on 102 and 103. Then on 105 and 106 is urban forestry.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes.
I want to wait, but since it came up with the shortage of workers, job fairs. How often are we,
We just had one,
just had one?
So
And-
we had one for the city ourselves,
Uh-huh.
and we regularly participate in those around the community as well.
but we've done at least two. So we had such a good one, I asked to do more of them, because we really had a good one just for the city. They did it well done, and I found out she just did one the other day,
Okay.
last week. Last week? Week before.
We went to, the technical colleges all week, we go to all of those. Fort Johnson and, down in, San Natchitoches, but it's closed when the plant closed down.
Yes.
Can't be.
We
Candy.
went there.
Candy. Yeah,
Um,
candy.
Did you do good when you went? Did y'all?
yeah,
That's good.
What do you mean by do good, Lisa?
So,
My question too.
You
Did
got
you
some
hire-
people,
let me
or
rephrase
it
that.
just was
Did
a
you
wonderful
hire-
day?
Did you have a, did
we
you,
get some people, but of course, the travel is
Well, the city better put that trolley on the road.
Go pick 'em up, right?
Yes.
They won't make it there if you put it in that.
They'll be fired before they get hired. But, okay, just wondering, I know we short in pretty much all areas. Thank you for that.
Move forward to streets on 108, 109.
On 109, it says contract labor inmates,
What number?
520, 106.
I'm sure that's
We
what,
pay the sheriff.
That's the
Yeah.
prison
That's
workers
our
that you see.
contribution to the sheriff and,
yeah,
We have three or four
thing
inmate
around
groups.
cut grass and stuff like that.
Okay,
I thought free labor.
I did too.
There's no free labor.
I thought it was.
Well, get
not for a
paid.
long time, but
No, it's reduced labor, but not free labor.
it is reduced,
Yeah,
but it ain't free.
no such thing as a free lunch.
They show up, though.
Yeah, they show up.
I don't think they have a chance, I don't think they have a chance not to.
I sure didn't. I thought they worked for
No,
free.
I won't be free.
I must watch too much TV.
You watch bold movies.
It is a lower risk,
There you
life.
go. That never came to my mind.
Lower amount of money,
Get
it's
paid.
not workers' comp, there's no coverages, they're statutorily, you can't, it's pretty rough for them, you know, if you're injured or whatever, but that's part of a prison sentence.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't have to worry about overtime or health insurance.
And that's really short, we're way less crews than we used to do, and, yeah,
You halfway.
maybe recent. We need way
You
more
hit my leg when you.
Need way more what?
crews for,
Inmate crews?
Yeah.
We've actually asked for an additional one, and they don't have the inmates to give us.
They're committed somewhere else.
Yes, sir.
there's more jurisdictions that have become able to use them, and there's less inmates for wanting to be involved and less ability to make them or can be because they have reasons they can, it's just a whole different, everything y'all are saying about everything else, it applies there too. It's just harder to get,
Inmates.
to do it. You'd think you could just tell them to do it, but it's not that simple.
Yeah, they still have rights, incarcerated.
Now, tell me something. Aren't inmates getting some kind of benefit on this diminution of sentence, working?
That's a question for the sheriff's office.
Yeah, they do get a stipend put in the accounts, but I mean, it's a very, very small amount. The sheriff is the one who gets the money.
Okay, but I mean, does that also up with good time or anything like
I've
that? or-
heard a good time when
But I know,
you
but
park
I'm
outside.
questioning, I mean, I don't know what's going on now because they recently got rid of, the state's made some changes and I was
I
wondering.
don't know if all that's still in effect or not, but I remember that
Yeah.
at one time. When Davidian Correctional was in Pineville,
Uh-huh.
they got additional credit for working it out. of the
That was, I
correctional
thought, the height of when we were getting.
Yeah, that was a source for us.
When
for inmate
T.W.
crews.
Thompson
Also,
was over the,
prison.
yeah.
You know, until the prison closed, and now we only have the sheriff to go to get them.
And with everybody under budgetary constraints, like the mayor was talking about, everybody needs inmate crews. And that just ain't enough of them.
Well, we're not gonna push for that. That's a good thing, but not enough of them.
Yeah,
We're not gonna push for that.
I'm not
Anyway,
complaining.
let's go.
I'm not complaining.
111 and 112 is traffic. Then 114, 115, and 116 building services.
What's building services? What do they do?
Custodians clean the buildings. stuff like that.
Custodians, repair and maintenance, carpenters, painters, electricians,
Maintenance.
people.
And we're short in that department also.
Yes.
Yes.
That's another area, and I'm sure Mr. Gill would attest to that, where skilled labor is a problem. Can't get.
To the extent there, we're not getting them, and to the extent there's not an extent like there used to be of available folks.
We can't hardly keep the skilled trades long at all. They can get in the private sector and make so much more. And it's hard to tell a young person about a pension. They're gonna go where they can make more money.
That's a good point. The attractions that attracted me all those years ago to the city, healthcare and pensions, the 23-year-olds and today don't care.
Show me the money.
That's all they care about.
Same thing, that's all we cared about at that age too.
You're right, Gary.
Yeah, so.
But there was some generational, people would tell you, you need to think of this, son or daughter, you need to go into, it's just a lot different
The
mentoring
benefits, yeah.
than there is now.
Benefits.
That's right.
Well, I tell people, I tell my relative, there's a difference between a job and a career. You choose one or another. A job is a job, a career is a career. So it's a difference between the two. Okay?
All right. And then 118 and 119 is the motor pool. He'll probably tell you he's got the same problem getting mechanics in the motor pool.
I was waiting for that one to tell Malcolm and I had this discussion a few weeks ago. We just have a shortage of all those artisans and laborers that used to be so great as a career in the city to have. We're non-competitive, and you'll see in motor pool and a couple of these spots, the problems you have where you'll see a bunch of overtime that time has been, so you'll see a ton of overtime, plus you're seeing contract labor, plus, so when you look at all of them, you go, that can't be, if that one moves, that one's supposed to do this and all that, and we're just having a lot of trouble having that. It used to be from wrapping a car to everything you needed, we did it all here. In all of these different divisions, not just motor pool, but printers, all of our work, whether it's everything you can imagine this city could do roughly in-house, and we don't have the people to do it.
There's 5 or 6 vacant mechanics right now in motor pool that we can't.
This used to be a good place to be a mechanic, but you can go to a shop now and, make more money in a salary. We also good at training folks and then sending them to the higher paying place.
We do best. They come here and they work for here a couple of years, designations and everything else. Then boom, to the private thing. We pay for all the designations they get, and they're off.
So,
You see the same thing when we get into utilities with the linemen and those people too. They just.
We're great lineman
can't compete
trainers.
with the private sector.
Hey, going back to the increase in accountants, same problem. The educated and skilled people, whether technically skilled or formally educated, the principle's the same. If there is a shortage, say, of accountants, say the world needs 10 and there's just 3, those 3 are going to the highest payer, which is never us.
The one place we've had a contract that's a classified services in police, we send somebody to the academy and they come here and they're to get sign-ons and other things. We've typically had an amount of time they have to stay, or some of that can amortize off against them. We have to build a way to do it, right? If you gave it up front and they leave, you're never going to chase them and get it. So with police, we've had some success and they've helped us do that and they're good about it. But with these other divisions that they're talking to you about, other departments, it's never been introduced or implemented because with police, it's a little different in trying to capture that. I'm not sure it wouldn't run somebody off to try to do it, but it's certainly not something not worth thinking about. If we're going to put you in, if it's a specialty job where you're going to get a bunch of designations and certifications, the city's going to pay for all that. Maybe we ought to have something that says they have to stay a certain amount of time. But the problem is, how do you enforce that if they leave? There's all kind of rules about taking out of retirement that you can, it's just a lot of legal red tape if you're to try to enforce that. But it is an issue.
Then on page 121 and 122 is the answer sheet.
Does anyone in the area have an animal shelter besides us?
Grand Parish does.
Pineville does.
And Grant finally have one now?
They've been for several years.
I don't know of anyone else here, but there may be.
Incinerator?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got one. Burn animals. Incinerator.
We also do service for the police chief. They bring their.
They come one more time.
That's such a loaded one. I have so much to say that I'm not. It's not a fair world.
And then planning is on 124, 125. One 127 to 128 is construction salary. Then 130 through 132, I believe, is police.
We pretty much up to snuff on cars down there.
Yeah, how are we on caution? We're good? A-okay, that's the first time in quite a few years to hear that from these guys. We're also way up to snuff on tech equipment and, you know, you guys have loaded them up over
So we're
this
gonna
last 2
rotate
years.
basic now.
Yeah.
Every year just add something, a few.
They're back to complaining only about salary, so that's a good sign. It was only, it was equipment. Now it's just salary. So we're making progress.
Had a new one start today.
Yay.
Good deal.
A new
They're
what?
taking care of the.
New police officer, new post-certified officer.
Okay.
And if one of the metrics of measuring is a change in the bad stats toward the good, we've got a good story to tell. We've been moving in the right direction. We had a terrible weekend,
Yes.
as y'all know, just
Yeah.
absolutely awful. Awful. And,
Yeah.
I think, we had a murder-suicide situation, and we had
Yeah, it was 3 of ours.
a drive-by situation that didn't result in the harm of the other, but not anything that makes it happen.
Making an arrest on that now.
It was 3 of our boys got shot, but nobody got killed.
What was the address of the drive-by?
Right now.
No, what was the address?
Leland, 16th and Leland.
Yeah.
Now, I've been posed this question. People think the council hires police officers. We don't hire police officers. You need to
That's
stop.
the least of our.
I'm just saying.
We got 2 ladies. We got
That's
right
exactly, like I've told people that they didn't.
Is the complaint you're hiring the wrong ones? Not, what does that even mean?
I don't get it. I just have to explain to
Yeah.
people that the council, we only supervise 2 people.
Yes.
It's just these,
We don't do a
Donna,
good job on them.
that's it. That's it.
You supervise through the budgetary process,
Exactly.
everybody,
We
but
approve
you don't
it.
hire them, yeah.
Yeah, we,
payment, but we don't write the check.
Yes. Yes, yeah.
More misunderstanding about everyone's roles.
Oh, yeah.
So police are hired through a process that only comes, I have to technically sign off. Y'all heard me talk about my rule on discipline. These guys all have learned over the years that it's true. It's not, I will only enter into a disciplinary matter if there's a termination. I don't believe I can take a person's job without looking at it myself and going through every fact like a little mini trial. Maybe a 90-day, I would, some of them, they're going to bring them in, I would look at it, but generally that. Same on hiring. Those guys have their own group that does it. We're even talking about some new stuff that's going to be great. I would weigh in if somebody has what's called a red bar. So if you look at a police matrix, Malcolm, and there's a system that a psychologist runs a matrix for us, and it's called the matrix, but it is just that. It's an algorithm of all the things that predict whether that person is going to damage property.
A psych evaluation.
100%.
Psych evaluation, okay.
Luckily for us, the people that started this have done it so long, and so many officers have entered into it. Like any algorithm, the more the more predictive it gets, and it's very, very uncannily good at predicting that job. So if someone red bars, Gary, which means they go out of a norm in any individual category, one single red bar, they don't necessarily like this about me, you're out. You're presumptively not. If you red bar anywhere. But if they red bar, it comes to me, and we have a little rule, and I've written it, and it's in a adopted executive order by the mayor on file with you guys, and that rule is, for example, Gary, you will get a red bar on a lot of guys who were in the military first. If they saw any amount of combat, they're going to hit a red bar with our matrix. I can not waste your time going, but you can figure it out. But that's one. Well, I'll mitigate that. If the only reason is prior military service and we can discern that, then I have to physically write a note. And there are files with handwritten notes that say, I've waited, we did this, I've reviewed the whole file, they've given me a separate opinion, we've talked to the psychologist about why they red barred, and I'll override a single red bar. So that's when I would weigh in. If you got 3 red bars and they're all related to the same thing, it's theoretically possible, but unlikely. But if you just red bar out as a new 21-year-old on propensity to have a bad arrest, you won't make it. And that's hard line.
Well, I appreciate the administration doing its due diligence when it comes to hiring police officers. They
We do.
a very important job. And we just don't want any bad outcomes, so it's good that we're doing our homework on the front end to mitigate those situations, unfortunate situations.
If any one of you would want to sit and look at the ones that we've done, you'll find it's all there, and you'll find we're so proud. Our rule is, I don't know if the commissioner's still in here, I think he went out.
He just walked out and took a phone call.
Patrick Van Dyke, our rule is we hire hard, and we protect, and we're going to make sure that, what our theory is, Gary, is if we're hiring the right people, they're going to make the right decisions in those tough circumstances most of the time. And so we take a hard look, but none of these guys want cops that are doing wrong. This is the best leadership group we've seen in years, and we hire hard, and we're criticized for it, because everybody else, you can call and get the deal. I don't weigh in. People, if you think they bother you, Malcolm, or y'all, I get everybody that wants to do it. And the beauty is I can honestly say, not my decision. That's a chief decision unless you get a red bar. That should tell people if someone they know didn't get it, I just told you why. Because I can't individually do it. If Chuck calls and says, my nephew's cousin's friend didn't get it and they want to know why, it's probably because they hit a red bar or failed a polygraph or whatever, but I can't under law call and tell someone why they didn't make it. I'm not allowed to do that, which is hard because people want to know why. But if you didn't get it, it's because you failed one of those things.
Now, how many officers are we understaffed?
So it's understaffing. So tough question. We were at there was 150 line that got set when I was running, and that became a political football because everyone wants to say, well, then you're 50 down because you're defining the need at 150. I said then, and I'll say again, 150 is not it's not even close to realistic anymore by anybody. And we ought to be civilianizing and putting positions in that don't necessarily have to go through academy. Having said that, whatever we decided was the real number, and I would put it closer to probably
120 to 130.
I would have said between 120 and 130, then we're 25 down from that,
We have 101 as of today.
which is good. Which
We do need to civilianize, as the mayor said. We have some positions that we need to work through civil service and through the council to see about civilianized.
But everybody loves to tell you how they could hire, like, we're not solving that, they could go hire officers.
Ain't they?
We don't want to just hire people.
We've
not
moved the
easy.
pay as we promised, we've done the benefits, y'all paid for the equipment, we're doing everything we promised we would do. Unfortunately, and Tegner's here, people don't want to be officers.
They don't.
They don't want the risk, they don't want the stuff we were talking about, Malcolm, they don't want the chance of being accused of a good or bad shoot, they don't want anything to do with it, and they don't see the public support that they once enjoyed. Some of that is because of bad events, some of it is because of a general lawlessness of people not wanting to be police, there's a whole bunch of stuff in it. But multifactorially speaking, people don't want to be, it's a single factor at the end, nobody wants to do it. It's very difficult.
So would you say with the measures we've taken over the last few years, we're seeing a retention of officers?
So we have stopped the bleeding, obviously, because of the commitment from the administration. We looked at those numbers last week and saw what happened in '22 and even before that, 19, 20, 21, 22. We're losing them to either a retirement or a discipline at this point.
Oh, so it's not really okay, that's a good thing.
They're not going to LSUA or going to Tower
Right.
Gulf.
Or sure.
State police.
The state police, we lose some too.
I'm sorry, we've lost 2 to state police in the last 2 years.
Historically, we would always lose to state police. You just have to know, even when AP, you're gonna lose to state police, but including Chad, who we
Yeah,
lost to state
we
police.
lost Chad to state police years ago.
I'm back home.
I think it's, we gotta be super transparent here and fair. There's just always, as we were talking about Malcolm and some other stuff, you just gotta do better. We have to figure out that civilian component. We have to not fudge on, okay, if it's not 150, what is the right complement and it should be? Say where that
Cameras?
shortage is.
What about cameras? That's a force.
Force multiplier, yes. We
You standing up?
never know, we run a lot of cameras.
You
We just
stand
don't
up.
like to tell people about cameras.
I got his attention, so.
We'll discuss that.
Yes, he'll discuss it with
We don't want to let everybody know.
people who are telling y'all, why don't, like, politically, if I were there, I'd run cameras. We run a lot of cameras. What you don't do is talk about running a lot of cameras and where you do it.
Right, I mean, we
That
have
doesn't make
cameras on our
sense.
playground at school, and even elementary kids can realize where there's not coverage, and if they want to do something silly, they're gonna go where the cameras can't see them. So we don't want to tell where
I'm not
cameras
saying
are.
disclose, I'm just saying, are we?
Yes.
I'm not saying disclose them, please. I'm not-
Well, that's what people ask. People want to know.
It's no secret, every agency in America, including New York PD, is using everything they can technology-wise, and that's where we're moving. And again, the commitment from the administration is putting stuff with his section, brand-new stuff that we haven't replaced since I was here the first time, 27 years ago. We're moving in the direction we need to move.
Well, public safety is a concern.
We do. We are big tech. Chad just went to New York to look at some different things about how they do their breakdown for every kind of walk, festival, parade, which we have to implement, as we talked about, at the FETs and everything we do. We're under a national standard, and we do a lot of drone work. We do use a lot of tech as force multipliers.
Okay.
Okay.
Overall, are we where we want to be in the tech side, or?
Oh, yeah, we're getting where we want to be on tech, for sure. We're not overall where we want to be with the number of officers and civilians that are working in pure public safety. And both chiefs, Sam and Chad, we have some ideas about consolidating some dispatch and some other things that have retirement challenges because they're two different systems. But from a tech standpoint, we're definitely almost, if not where we want to be for a force this size. We don't lack any toys that anybody would have. I would say our crimes, we've got some other stuff we talked to y'all about as a security measure outside of here that we're moving toward that we'd like to see.
Now, is there something going on with the 911 call center or Crime Stoppers? Is that?
It's not us.
That's not us? Okay. But there is something going on with it.
And the city originally was one of the starting parties. Crime Stoppers has gone through some governance challenges, and
But that's not
that's not
us.
us. The court It went under some court supervision.
Okay.
Uh,
But that affects us though, right?
Not Crime Stoppers, no.
Not with social media and what we have going on today, we're good on that. I mean, we can push out exactly what Crime Stoppers traditionally push it out with, KALB, right, on TV. Remember, every week they push it out. We can do that instantaneously now.
That was not disrespectful. I'm laughing because this guy's squirming.
I'm asking, I mean, I want to know, man. I want to know. I wanna know.
Crime Stoppers went through some challenges. Mr. Fowler's aware, their board, they went through some governance issues and battled about some different aspects of their programming
So-
and ended up in some kind of receivership with the court.
So no city money is going to them?
Oh, no, we've not been a partner for decades.
Okay. But
But-
we're still able to provide that service.
Crime Stoppers,
Crime Stoppers is still providing us information.
Yeah.
We're still receiving information from them. They're still funneling information to us as they do.
Okay.
So-
We're not paying them.
so it's under the receivership of Judge Doggett,
Okay.
Funds come,
but it's still being operated.
Criminal fines, they get us.
criminal fines, they get state.
I was approached to help them figure out a receiver. They wanted help as a party who wasn't in it, but who would have knowledge of it. And
But despite
we
that,
did that.
but despite that issue, we're still able to get those anonymous tips we need. Okay.
Yes,
So-
anonymous tipping is still happening.
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna try to get through the general funds today,
Yes.
so let's go ahead and get back on that.
All right, sorry about that.
No, that's all.
Thank you,
No,
Gary.
Get the questions out the way.
Pages
Yeah.
134 and
Yeah.
135 is police and fire civil service, very small.
What you say?
Yes, you will.
Hopefully y'all can learn. All right.
137 through 139 is the fire department.
Fully staffed.
Fully staffed.
Fully staffed.
Tell you a little bit of the difference in what people,
They want to be
What we're
firemen,
saying.
they don't want to be policemen.
And who's the chief of the fire?
Fully
Because of his good leadership. All right, good. All right.
fully staffed, fire rating #1, he's doing everything you gotta do.
We can't have a better fire rating.
All right, good.
Nope, that's good as it gets.
All right. That's impressive, fully staffed. That's the only division that's fully staffed, sounds like.
That's the man.
Good job. Good job. All right.
Y'all are starting a little internal war that's gonna be great all week, I can promise you. This is the classic battle of the ages that she
That's
knows.
who's gonna fix it up.
All right, DJ.
Mr. Sam, good job, sir. Good job.
Them two on side of you better get to get, y'all better get it.
Good job, Mr. Sam.
Then on pages 141 and 142 is the civil service department.
Okay.
And on 144 and 145 is human resources.
Do you think we need to allocate more resources for recruiting in those areas?
Elena says no, if Lisa were in
It's not
here.
recruiting, it's the pay.
Yeah,
Pay?
it's straight pay. That's why we're struggling about, well, everything we told you about waiting to midterm to look at some, we're struggling to get a pay plan that really makes sense.
Well,
There was some decision, I hate to keep saying it, but just some decisions made that we've got to get where the risk jobs and the jobs that are hard to fill but are absolutely needed reflect more pay. And another conversation we've had, Malcolm, I know I keep singing out, but we could be, to me, overall, whether it's police or anybody else, you'd be better off, with a few exceptions, being leaner and paying people more with better benefits than the historic way the city has functioned.
why can't we start doing that?
Well, we can. I've done it, I did it in the past, but it was more the result of austerity measures that we had to do. And then guess what the stats showed is, we came out of the austerity measures from 1,000 employees almost at one time to 800, 700 something, and all of the metrics that I use to measure things were better.
Well,
because people were,
They pay more. They
Working
expect-
smarter.
well, I'm not even saying we were paying, people were working smarter and things are better. I'm saying if you had the attraction of paying people better, rewarding that, now, don't let any of your employees hear people are getting fired or laid off. It's not that, it's just instead of refilling certain things, you let them attrit off, increase the money to those there, and try to get the additional deliverables. But that takes a lot of management. A lot of what we're lacking right now, Malcolm, is we've lost a whole bunch of our leaders who were in the class right above what we call assistant directorships. All of these middle management folks that we had so many good people have retired, and they've done it in the last decade or half decade, so much so that it's drastically affected
Last 5 years, right?
the ability for us to train and bring up. In the state system, David, I don't know how to explain it better than you, but you can double encumber. So you could have two people in a job where you're training one because you know one's going out. We're not allowed to do those things, and it really hurts us.
You can double encumber for up to 1 year, to fund that position fully twice. And that gives you a year of succession planning. You can get the next person ready to go. It was a good tool that we had.
Under the city's current system, the new guy comes in when the old guy goes. They don't get any time together.
well,
Okay.
if we're complaining about pay, let's find a way to up the pay for people.
Or civil service, that's what we're working on.
So that's in the works.
I mean, say that again?
So, you
Civil
know,
service.
streamlining, I guess, the workforce.
Yeah, I have
That in the works.
I actually have an executive order out on it still that has been, I need to reinstitute the same way, but my thought would be, it's not about getting rid of people, it's about when jobs come up for retirements, et cetera, to rethink what you're doing in that position. Are you just gonna fill it again and have the same problem, or are you gonna make that
I mean, but
position
Mayor,
be able to
but Mayor,
change?
With the increase in technology, productivity is.
Technology's replacing a lot of jobs that
Yeah.
we don't need anymore.
Yeah.
Same with police, that was my point about police, to use this 150 magic political number everybody uses, it's not true anyway. Technology, drones replace, I can't even tell you the percent of people that replaces and what they can do, see, and act on. It's
I know,
unbelievable.
right? The other night, it had a wreck right on 49, right in front of my house, and I was standing out there, and the people couldn't understand what the drone was for, and I was like, you just don't, you are clueless to what this drone can do. And I tell the students that at Peabody, it's like, oh, they have those drones out there just videoing, and I'm thinking, no, that's why you got arrested, you got arrested, and you got arrested.
So, Michael, we can't just terminate a position without cause.
I understand that.
Unless we're not gonna, so if I said this job is no longer needed and there's someone in it, I could collapse that job and defund it out without that person being able to say no, but then that's really gone. You can't do that. Civil service is smart. It's not gonna let somebody come in and do that and then replace it. So that, for 2 years, that position of that type can never exist again, to make sure that a spoil system is not being reintroduced. So that is a way, if we're seeing jobs where someone's unproductive, that you could actually kill that one. But the other way is just don't keep refilling the same things that are not productive by the very nature of what they do. You're just paying a salary. Technology's already replaced it. It's already a functionally obsolete position.
Okay.
Gary's not happy with these side talks, but
No, I mean, the big question. We be here all night.
Leave it alone.
We good.
147 and 148 is legal.
so under that assistant city attorney, remember that's multiple jobs, not one person.
It's about 4 or 5, right?
So it's on the page before, 4 jobs. And the part-time is 7.
And on page 150 and 151 is Parks and Recreation.
I know y'all want to skip, DJ, but that's a big number that somebody ought to be catching. There's a whole new set of things in there.
Legal?
Yeah. The community service officers,
I was looking at Save Alex.
So that's the additional officers in our parks and everything that are a couple of steps under a police officer, but will have authority to be adding a force multiplier. So right where you were talking about our shortage over there, creating jobs where retired police or other people who really are interested and qualify, not quite as a
Are
cop.
they armed? Or
No,
not?
sir.
No.
And we presented that's
Right
right, Malcolm wasn't on yet. I'll give you the PowerPoint of I'll have everything spelled out for you, but not armed, no gun, no weapon,
Just a
no arrest power, but they will be in the parks, uniformed,
2 zeros.
with the resources to get police there and watching out and creating a
Community
multiplier.
service officer,
Yeah, right here.
what they gonna do?
Well, it's,
I did a presentation, yeah.
Yes,
I'm gonna send it to you, to y'all. Malcolm hadn't seen it.
911 here.
yeah, what they do is, it's like plain clothes.
Yeah, a little more aggressive about keeping those parks clean, keeping needles and stuff out so that our kids and everybody can enjoy that space. But that space cannot be owned by people that
Yeah, Bolton Avenue, there's an issue.
park and, right?
There's an
Yep.
issue there. Okay. So has that, like the safe
That hadn't
technician,
come into play yet.
hasn't come into play yet?
So we started this year, we're filling those positions now, it went through a process. I think I signed off on the first round of them.
So yes, you signed off on the first round of officers, I think it's 4 at this particular point, and then there's another 7.
Okay. So they're working as we speak?
They have not started working
they're
yet.
about
We're
to.
still preparing the training process for them, but they should be deployed by the summer.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the new budget that they're under, there's no budget for them yet, so it's gonna time out perfectly.
150 and 151 is Parks and Recreation.
Maintenance building, maintenance Johnny Down. What kind of maintenance be done to Johnny Down if it has a turf field?
Continuous.
Only the infields are turf.
So
The outfield.
And the outfield?
Grass.
Who take care of that? I thought Links,
M2 Mitten,
do Links take care of
Yeah.
that?
yes, M2 Mitten, that's who's the contractor at the links.
And we pay them to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They actually do both functions, Johnny Downs and the golf course.
Okay.
And,
Because they're
And
outside.
the local
Bringhurst and soccer.
Bringhurst, soccer
Okay.
fields. They do an excellent job.
They do.
I know they were concerned because in the ordinance, we said, just so y'all know, we do RFPs for lots of reasons. They keep everybody thinking through the problems and the issues, and they help create competition. We don't have any issue with M2. That's not the point. So if y'all hear concerns from them, that's not the issue.
Because we have it on the agenda for next week, it's a 1 year.
Yeah.
It's a 1-year contract.
It's just,
And we let them know that we're going out to bid the next year, we let them know that, just to make sure, keep everybody honest. RFP,
Yeah.
RFP, not bid. It's a service contract, right? Just to make everybody, keep everybody honest.
Page 153 and 154 is community development. Now, this part of community development is the non-federally funded part. It's actually the smaller part.
Because I was wondering how the salaries
no, it's
cut
the
in
small
half.
one, yeah.
They would be, those are an estimation, Malcolm, of what we'll pay on our end after the federal funding is exhausted. And again, we don't even know what that is to the next year's main budget.
Now,
Do we have grant?
is this where the federal funding that kind of puts us in a precarious situation? Is this that department?
I guess if you completely lacked it,
Excuse me?
if you didn't get any federal funding, that would put us in a precarious position.
Because isn't,
I don't think we're saying the same
like,
question.
well, let me ask a better question. Is this where there's a cut in DEI funding right here? Is that where this is?
In DEI?
Yeah, the feds.
Not aware that, no, I know what it is. I'm not aware the feds have been able to cut our community development.
I'm just wondering.
Kay, is Kay in there? We missing something, Michael? And not in our
sir.
funding,
Not in our funding. There's not been a cut in any HUD or home funding, CDBG funding.
we haven't seen one in anything that we're doing yet.
Not as of yet.
That's a good thing, all right. And on page 153, it looks like the salaries and wages, what is it, from last, what is it, 23, 20, I guess from 22 to 24, as opposed to 24 to the present, has been cut in half. Any particular reason for that, or,
That's the basic that we leave it at,
okay,
and then it may be budget amendment, if it looks like we need some more, we'll throw it in.
okay.
And again, that's an estimate,
That's all, yeah.
yeah,
Just waiting on federal funds.
wait on the federal funds, and even at that, you don't know what you will expend in the individual fiscal year.
Okay.
It's all based on figures.
Now, who's in charge for applying for federal funds on our part?
So some of it's going to be Ms. Branham and community development, but there's a multitude of people. Elena does it. Mr. Canella does it in utilities. There's
Transit
the
does it.
police chief does it in his group. Transit has to do it. There's
different
multiple people that apply for different
Are we leaving anything on the table?
We only leave, so I would say no, but let me clarify that. We leave things on the table where the feds would provide us with one-time dollars and no operating and maintenance in the future, where we make the assessment that we'll never be able to afford it, and what we get for the one-time money isn't worth it. So there's a cost-benefit analysis of,
So put that in layman's terms for me. So-
if someone gives you, I'll let you can hire this person, this is what they want, it's $100,000 I'm giving you this year, but I'm never paying them again, and now you have to have them on your budget, and the job, for 20 years, and the job they're gonna do is not critical to your service, that's a bad deal.
How often does that happen?
A lot. With the feds, a lot. The feds are very good at offering money that everybody says, get that grant, and there's nothing behind it. It's a one-time money, non-recurring.
Well, for instance, was the police officers.
Yeah.
We had,
You'll find that out.
once we put them on, we couldn't,
Or the
we didn't
compliance
want to, we didn't want to get rid of them.
Okay, I'm sorry, Elena just said,
Compliance.
even more important, I can't even believe I missed that one first, sorry. Absolutely. The other part would be, it's similar to what I just said, and the compliance with the grant costs more than the grant. So we'll see a grant that someone says, oh, y'all can get $40,000 to go clean this up. But you have to hire 2 new people to do it, and that costs $100,000. That could, to comply with getting that. Or you got to use existing employees and take their time from the jobs they normally do. That's the equivalent of spending $100,000 in their time increments on complying with $40,000. We're not going to take that deal. And that happens all the time.
Then you have to pay a consulting fee.
And y'all get that pressure
Fill out all
working.
your
I do. At
paperwork to
community
send to the government
meetings.
every year.
Y'all are going to have people come and go, look what the city didn't apply for. You're going to hear that at your meetings even more than we do. And that's when we're not going to take that deal.
Oftentimes, you'll see them, quote, left on the table, so to speak, because nobody wants to pick them up for that very reason.
We can give y'all the back row one too. Let's look at buses. Look at the money we get to operate a bus system. You couldn't do it without it. But it isn't close to covering the loss we take there. Not even close.
But that's with all public transit systems.
Yeah.
But it's an example of
Yeah.
that short, you gotta make that, but you couldn't do it without it, so that's a decision we take. We do that. Okay?
Next up on 156, 157, and 158 is community services.
All right, so is this where the home improvement program funds are?
No, that's a community development.
Okay.
It's community development, that would be the federal side of the one we just looked at.
Oh, so I missed it.
No, but we're not there
We
yet.
haven't gone to the federal side yet.
That's the one that we amended, Malcolm, the major budget amendment, it's not in this document,
Okay, all right.
because we don't know what they're gonna give us yet.
Speaking of money, the federal government owes any FEMA money?
Yes, sir, we're still dealing with it.
How much we still owe?
We've got a lot of electrical reimbursement. we need.
I'm not gonna, sorry, Gary, keep it, that's
No.
not that it's, I
We still-
I can tell the answer's about to be long and not on the
No,
subject.
are we still owed?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still,
Oh, so we don't pay the bills, they still owe us?
Right.
On the federal side?
Yeah, the big hurricanes.
Yeah.
Laura and
6 figures or 7?
seven,
7.
Over 2 or under 2?
3 to 4, I'd say.
So,
All right, well then I take back my not wanting to hear it. We need
so
to
let
get
me
that
ask you a question.
Every storm, every named event.
money. And it-
So are we hammering them, or are we just waiting for answer? Are we on the phone? I mean, I know how to.
Yes, we've turned in all of our documentation and we're waiting on them. This is a multi-year process for each named storm where we are able to apply for disaster
Yes.
assistance. So this happens every named storm.
And they're slow like this.
It's unfortunate, but it occurs every time. So that's why whenever we go to the council for emergency ordinances, in order to be able to put those resources into place, so our citizens don't have to wait, and we're able to perform those services, pay our vendors, and then we apply for that reimbursement through FEMA.
Okay,
And the folks, the entities that have very small fund balances, Gary, they're in big trouble because they can't wait long for payment.
so we're talking about years,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
years back.
Now, our situation is unique due to the fact that we own our own electrical system. That's what gets banged up a lot in high winds and high storms and things like that. Most local governments don't face that. Now, Laura, we had a bunch of debris,
Yeah.
but most of the time, what we're damaged on, the big money is the electrical grid,
Okay.
getting it back up to date. So that's what we have outstanding from Laura.
All right.
And Delta.
Tell Chuck he forgot his phone.
Hey,
Chuck.
Ted, give this to Chuck. Get that, hurry up. Yeah,
He's going to make a call, he ain't got nothing to call it.
We'll get his stuff.
Yeah,
He's got
okay.
it. Good example, and I'll leave it, good example of that is we get that money, that's an opportunity for us to take money that wasn't programmed, that becomes a windfall later, it's really not, but becomes something that you can apply to some one-time capital needs or other things that aren't repetitive for us, that we can build up something on. So, you know, it's in the future that you'd get it, but then you've got a few $1 million for something that maybe we're short on. Like when we caught up the vehicles, we were able to use the ARPA money to catch up something that had been deferred too much.
And we're talking with GOSEP now about that, in fact, we'll get back on that as soon as we're through the budget.
Hey, who is our 2 youth program coordinators?
There's only one position filled right now, and that's Jeff Franklin.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it'd be great to have a little city yearbook and see who all is in the positions, you know?
Roads gallery.
CD yearbook.
That's a school
That's
teacher.
school
work.
teacher.
Just throw that out there. Well, because there's a lot of city employees, and it's nice to, you know all the,
No faces, huh?
yeah, faces from the.
That's nice for them to know who they can call and try to tell what to do. We're
No,
not supposed
that is
to.
not my purpose.
No, I know, of course not.
I just called him Gil.
Exactly.
One more department, y'all?
Yes.
That would be recreational enhancement, 161 and 162. I'm sorry, 160 and 161. Need to put my glasses on.
These are the ones funded by the
Yes, sir.
tax.
This one, yeah, funded by the tax.
Yes, sir.
Skip and his crew.
Now, how much money does the tax generate annually?
We had it up.
Man, hold on,
Because it's
I know.
split 3 different places.
Yeah, it's a unique one. We have an operations and maintenance portion and a capital part.
And the zoo part.
And a zoo part.
And then you double that whole amount, and that same amount goes to the zoo.
Zoo.
It takes a formula to
1.7.
track it all.
1.7 times 2.
There's a form.
1.7 size of the and 1.7 split into 40% O and M.
Yeah, 'cause we
60%, 65, 35. 35% O and M, 65% capital, of the half that goes there, and the other half goes to the zoo. I think it's 1.6 times 2. I think.
You like me, when I can see it,
I have a chart I'll send you.
I could put it, yeah.
I think so.
3.2.
Okay, 3.2 what?
So whatever X is, the total amount it generates, I think that's right. Half of it goes to the zoo as a dedicated vote of the people, and the other half is split 35-65. I did 35% operations, maintenance, and stuff for positions, and 65% of it is capital for recreation, to have a dedicated capital side.
So, okay.
And we did it, your brother was on it, that we did it because I thought we were not going to just create it doing one thing. If we were going to have programs, build new capital, we needed programming dollars to go with it, and that's why we set it up that way.
So it could perpetuate.
And I have a whole chart I can give you with everything broken out in the
Please,
spaghetti
I
graph.
understand that, okay. Because folks ask me questions.
1.6 times 2, I think.
I'm clueless on it. I don't know what these,
I think I have the tax call someplace, but I'll send you to lay all that out.
Is it doing what we need for it to do?
Look, I know y'all hear this and you're like, well, just give it to us, but if you go on the city website and you click on the tab of transparent, it will be right there and there's a whole chart. And it's
Okay.
the same thing I'm gonna give you, but I can print it.
Well, no, I'll go to the website, check it out.
You can print it for me.
Exactly. I don't mind.
Yeah,
There are a lot of documents on there.
so this is last appropriate.
That concludes general fund.
Okay.
Do something for
So, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a recess to tomorrow at, I was gonna say 1500, but 3 o'clock.
Help us out here.
We'll be back at the same time tomorrow.
I'm sorry.
And conclude the first half of the budget meeting. Meeting adjourned.
It's a good meeting.